Chapter 297. After breakfast, the four of them went downstairs and left the residential area. They sat in the car that Yang Tian had brought out from the college. This saved them a lot of trouble. With the college's car, not only did they save some travel expenses, it was also convenient. After entering Kai City, Yang Tian changed all the star crystals in his storage bracelet into standard star crystals. In the end, he obtained more than 500,000 star crystals. Adding the ones that he had not used previously, he had a little more than 600,000. Yang Tian deposited the 500,000 star crystals into the account that Seven Light Rain had opened. Next was to register the company, find a place to build the factory, find the media to advertise, and so on. This process was similar to that on Earth. To Yang Tian, these were all trivial matters. Naturally, he was not interested. He and Seven Light Rain separated from Seven Light Rain and Seven Light Rain, and began to purchase the items needed for the trip. With the storage bracelet, it was much more convenient to travel. Several tons of delicious beast meat, dozens of cubic meters of purified water, explosives, small maglev flying cars, smart detectors, and so on were all stored in the storage bracelet. After spending more than half a day, when Yang Tian finished purchasing, he discovered that there were only 3,000 star crystals left in the storage bracelet. This made Yang Tian even more aware that traveling and cultivating in the universe also required the support of money. No wonder the Star Mine Master's small world on Legu Planet that produced star crystals would attract so many people. When Yang Tian finished purchasing, Seven Light Rain and the others had also completed all the procedures to set up the company. Yang Tian did not expect that a small thing on Earth would be a money-making plan in the universe. It seemed that every race in the universe would create something unique. The reason why things like high heels were not popular in the universe was probably because the designer felt that it was uncomfortable to wear them. Yang Tian thought that if this matter was brought to Earth, many people would feel that it was melodramatic. Super Star Divine Temple, Goddess Palace. During this period of time, Qin Fei had been cultivating diligently. She used the method that Immeasurable Star Lord had taught her to activate the bloodline power in her body. Although the goddess was just a symbol to the Superstar Divine Temple, and did not have any actual power, she would still receive many gifts from powerhouses. Among these gifts, there were not only large amounts of star crystals, but also many beast cores. Consuming these nadins would allow one to obtain a large amount of energy. Qin Fei's cultivation speed could be described as 1,000 miles a day. She was already a planetary state Star Lord, but she was still one level lower than Yang Tian. If Yang Tian knew about her cultivation speed, he would probably be ashamed. After reaching the planetary state, Qin Fei knew that she needed to replenish large amounts of energy without needing anyone to remind her. At this moment, Qin Fei was standing in front of a row of boxes, picking through the dozens of beast cores. The gifts sent by the experts had all been checked by Hong Yuzhou, and there was nothing wrong with them. These inner cores were labeled according to the beast's cultivation base. For example, on the leftmost box, there was a label that read 1 Planet Warrior Level Beast Inner Core. Other than the Planet Warrior level, there were other levels. There was even the inner core of a stellar-level beast. Qin Fei had two choices now. The first was to start from the low-level inner cores and familiarize herself with the energy absorption process. However, this cultivation speed would be very slow. The advantage was that the cultivation process would be more stable. The second was to directly consume the inner core of a planetary state Lord Beast. There was a high possibility that after digesting the energy in the inner core, her cultivation base would directly rise to the planetary state Lord level. Although the cultivation speed would be faster this way, something dangerous might happen in the process of absorbing energy. This was because Qin Fei did not have such cultivation experience. Qin Fei thought about it for a moment and finally picked up the inner core of a planetary state Lord Beast. She already knew that Yang Tian had left the Death Star field and was getting closer and closer to her. She could not help but feel a little anxious. Although she had experienced so many things and met many young talents who looked more outstanding than Yang Tian in the temple, Qin Fei's feelings for Yang Tian did not change at all. Just as Qin Fei picked up the inner core, a white-robed maid walked in and called out with an unnatural expression, "Lady Goddess, what's the matter?" Qin Fei turned around and looked at the maid called Larry. Larry walked in front of Qin Fei with a suspicious look on her face and opened her hand in front of Qin Fei. There were a few words on Larry's palm. Qin Fei's eyes widened when she saw the crooked and somewhat blurry black words. Because the words were "Yang Tian is already in the Superstar Academy." Seeing that Qin Fei had already seen the words in her hand, the white-robed maid, Larry, immediately put down her hand and rubbed her palms together. The words on her palm turned into a faint smudge. "Where did you get the news?" Qin Fei looked at Larry and asked curiously. Larry stuttered, It's Asgard on my hand, he wrote it." Hearing Larry's words, Qin Fei smiled and said to Larry, "If you encounter something like this again in the future, you must not panic. You must remain calm. Otherwise, anyone will be able to tell that there's something wrong with you. But this isn't right." Larry looked at the smiling Qin Fei, lowered her head and said. Qin Fei naturally understood. According to the rules of the temple, if an internal member of the temple had an affair with an outsider and caused losses to the temple, the lightest punishment would be expulsion from the Superstar Divine Temple. The heaviest punishment would be exile or death. Qin Fei said, "Don't worry, if you're discovered, I'll bear the consequences for you." And, hearing Qin Fei's promise, although Larry was still a little worried, she still nodded and let out a long breath. Qin Fei knew that her father, the immeasurable Star-Lord, must have bribed a temple guard to pass this news to her. After knowing that Yang Tian was in the Superstar Academy under the Superstar Divine Temple, Qin Fei smiled happily and put the Planet Domain Lord Beast Core back into the box. Next, Qin Fei thought about how to make a trip to the Superstar Academy. The Superstar Academy was equivalent to the foundation of the Superstar Divine Temple. It was the source of a large number of talent. The Superstar Divine Temple also attached great importance to the Superstar Academy. As the goddess, it was possible to find a reason to visit the Superstar Academy. After buying the items, Yang Tian, Seven Light Rain, and the other two siblings immediately returned to their residence. They bought a lot of equipment this time, and Seven Light Rain and the others also had to go through a lot of procedures, so they needed to sort them out. As soon as they returned home, the four of them started getting busy. After spending half a day, when the sky turned dark, they finally finished sorting out the things they had bought on the spur of the moment. This was to prevent them from not remembering when they needed them. Most of the things Yang Tian bought this time were high-tech equipment. Although the cultivation of the universe emphasized personal strength, and many cultivators rejected these things, in Yang Tian's opinion, these equipment were very useful for training. It was a pity not to use them. There was a limit to everything, and it was not good to go to the extreme. After Yang Tian finished sorting out the things, Seven Light Rain took a white electronic tablet and walked over. She said to Yang Tian, "Please press on it." "What for?" Yang Tian asked, puzzled. Seven Light Rain smiled and said, "Just press on it. Do you think I will harm you?" Yang Tian scratched his head and pressed on the electronic tablet. Seven Light Rain smiled and said, "Congratulations, Yang Tian, you have 70% of the shares in the company we opened. Your handprint has been saved in the Universe Commerce Alliance's headquarters." "So that's how it is." Yang Tian smiled and nodded, showing a nonchalant look on his face. In his opinion, it was good enough that Seven Light Rain and the others could have their own things to do. As for opening a company to make money, Yang Tian did not even consider it. On the third day, Yang Tian and Seven Light How returned to the Superstar Academy together. 7 Light How had to cultivate diligently, starting from the most basic level. As for Yang Tian, he had to face the extremely difficult school training program. Chapter 298. After returning to the academy, Yang Tian spent more than a day familiarizing himself with the academy's system. With the support of the intelligent network, the learning process of the students became very simple. They only needed to open the academy's system to find out what they wanted. There was no need to travel around the huge academy. What piqued Yang Tian's interest the most was the academy's combat skill library. Soli had told him that he could choose a combat skill suitable for himself from the library. Unfortunately, Yang Tian didn't have any credits and wasn't even qualified to browse inside. Other than that, Yang Tian also used the virtual internet equipment on the 3rd floor to enter the academy's virtual network. The virtual network equipment was specially made by the academy. After preliminary testing, it would record the student's physical fitness into the network and generate various strength values. The virtual scene was very realistic, as if he was in the real world. If it weren't for the fact that he was about to set off with Soli to the little dark star field, Yang Tian would probably play in the virtual network for a few days and nights. Especially the fighting games in the virtual network, they could simulate many real scenes and fight with opponents. Although he couldn't use the power of the dragon orb or mental force, the scenes were realistic and it was a good place to train his combat skills. This was also why this virtual network was the favorite of elementary students and why intermediate students and above rarely entered it. This was because the combat power of the students of the meteor star mainly relied on physical attack power. The other powers they cultivated weren't strong enough. When they reached the planet state, they almost all relied on energy in the form of bloodline power to attack the enemy. The killing effect was much stronger than physical attacks. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, 3 days had passed. Yang Tian woke up early and changed into a set of black robes he bought in Kai City. This black robe was very loose and thin. It was very light on the body and was really breathable and warm in winter and cool in summer. The style looked like the training clothes of the humans on Earth. In addition to the clothes, the white shoes on his feet were also newly bought. They were made of soft alloy and were sturdy and durable. Advanced technology was reflected in all aspects of life. Every time Yang Tian experienced the benefits of these advanced technologies, he wanted to bring them back to Earth. Let the humans on Earth enjoy these things as well. As soon as he was ready, the communicator in Yang Tian's ear rang, and Soli's voice came, "Are you ready? It's time to go." Yang Tian replied with a smile, "Please wait a moment, right away." This communication device was also manufactured by the Academy to facilitate communication between the students. It was much more advanced than the translation device that Yang Nancy had given Yang Tian. After replying to Soli, Yang Tian thought for a moment and found that he didn't leave anything behind, so he opened the door and walked out. After exiting Building 188, Yang Tian saw Soli in black armor standing on the wide road in front of Building 186. Looking at Soli's armor, Yang Tian was also envious. However, this kind of armor was made by the Academy and could only be exchanged with credit. Yang Tian didn't have any credits, so he could only look at it and drool. Yang Tian quickly walked to Soli and smiled. Soli took the helmet and said indifferently, "Let's go." After she finished speaking, she turned around and walked towards the entrance of the intermediate area. At this time, in Building 187, several people were staring at Yang Tian's group. Among them were the long-haired Genesis Star, the dark-skinned Alifei, the slightly plump Julian, and 3 other intermediate students. These 6 people were going to follow Yang Tian's group with Genesis Star. Seeing Yang Tian and Soli walking side by side, Genesis Star and Alifei's eyes emitted the light of hatred. Yang Tian and Soli didn't know that there would be a lot of tails behind them. After leaving the intermediate area, Yang Tian and Soli took a low-altitude aircraft from the academy. After more than an hour, they arrived at the landing station in Kai City. At the landing station, the two sat on a lander and arrived at the spaceport outside Kytra's atmosphere. There were teleportation points on planet Kytra as well, but Soli had calculated that if they flew to a nearby planet called Kaiyang and then teleported to the little dark star field, they would save a lot of teleportation costs and wouldn't waste too much time. Soli also had her own spaceship, but it was in her own storage space. She could take it out at any time at the spaceport. Since Yang Tian's spaceship was docked at the spaceport, Soli took Yang Tian's spaceship. After boarding Yang Tian's Black Dragon spaceship, Yang Tian handed the control of the spaceship to Soli. He took out a smart tablet learning device and began to learn the universal language. According to Soli's calculations, it would take about 20 days to travel from Kytra to the mini-dark sector in Earth's time. During this time, Yang Tian would have enough time to learn the universal language. Under Soli's skillful operation, the route from Kytra to Kaiyang was quickly calculated. After calculating the route of the spaceship, the shortest route would take about 2 days. Glancing at Yang Tian, who was sitting on the side and trying to learn the universal language, Soli chose a more stable flight route and started the spaceship. After the spaceship started flying, Yang Tian looked up at Soli sitting in the pilot's seat and asked, "The place we're going to is called the mini-dark sector. Is there a bigger dark sector?" Yang Tian asked while looking at the smart tablet learning device in his hand. He had written some words on it. These words were what he was talking about. Soli nodded and said, "Yes, but it's not the mini-dark sector. It's the dark sector. In the universe, the places called dark are generally not good places." Yang Tian nodded his head and smiled. That was because the sentence he had just written was correct. In fact, as long as one had a good memory, learning words was very easy. As for those who were as strong as Yang Tian now, compared to ordinary people on Earth, they were already a new life form. Not only were their bodies strong, but their brains had also evolved to a new level. Naturally, their memory was many times stronger. Yang Tian originally thought that it would take at least half a month to completely understand the universal language. He did not expect that it would only take him 2 days. When the spaceship landed on Kaiyang, Yang Tian had finished learning and could recognize at least 90% of the universal language. As for the other rare words, he just needed to take out the smart learning device when he needed to use them. Compared to Kytra, Kaiyang was not only smaller, but also much less prosperous. Spaceships that came here could directly land in the spaceport on the planet's surface with permission. After exiting the spaceship, Yang Tian shut down the spaceship. When the spaceship's engine cooled down, he put the spaceship into his storage bracelet. The storage bracelet that Yang Tian had obtained on Crimson Flame Planet was very spacious. It had no problem storing a small spaceship. With the storage bracelet, traveling was very convenient. He could go anywhere empty-handed. After arriving at Kaiyang, Soli directly brought Yang Tian to the nearby teleportation point. For the next 10 days or so, Yang Tian and Soli were constantly teleported. After thousands of teleportations, Yang Tian was about to feel dizzy when they finally arrived at Ancient Fallen Planet, a planet with a very harsh environment. Ancient Fallen Planet was the destination of Yang Tian's teleportation this time. Ancient Fallen Planet was at the edge of the mini-dark sector. It was the place where the Dark Star King spent most of his time. Of course, this did not mean that the Dark Star King's tomb was built on Ancient Fallen Planet. Chapter 299. Lord Hong Yujio, I want to go to the academy. Qin Fei asked the maid to call Hong Yujio over. After Hong Yujio saluted her, Qin Fei said lightly. Hong Yujio looked at Qin Fei, then lowered his head and asked, "Goddess, why do you want to go to the Superstar Academy?" Qin Fei had already found an excuse and said with a smile, "After a while, the temple will be recruiting people in the academy. I want to go and take a look." Maybe it will be beneficial for this matter. After Qin Fei finished speaking, she saw that Hong Yuzhou did not immediately reply, so she smiled and said, "All right. Actually, I want to go outside and take a walk. After coming to the temple for so long, although it is very beautiful and the living conditions are very comfortable, it is a bit boring." The Superstar Academy was not under Hong Yuzhou's jurisdiction, so Hong Yuzhou naturally did not know that Yang Tian had already come to the Superstar Academy. He hesitated for a moment and nodded. In fact, when Qin Fei first came to the Superstar Divine Temple, Hong Yuzhou wanted to see Yang Tian. If possible, he might even kill Yang Tian, because Yang Tian's existence would affect this goddess. Hong Yuzhou did not want the same thing to happen again in the Superstar Divine Temple. But after being stopped by the black-clothed masked man riding the giant green bird, Hong Yuzhou was very smart and did not pay attention to Yang Tian. Because the black-clothed masked man's strength was too strong in front of Hong Yuzhou. Seeing Hong Yuzhou nod, Qin Fei suppressed her excitement and said, "Then let's go tomorrow. I have nothing to do anyway." "There is not enough time, we have to go the day after tomorrow." Hong Yuzhou shook his head and said, "All right." Qin Fei could only helplessly nod. As long as they could go out, it was fine. "I will go and arrange it," Hong Yuzhou said and turned around and slowly walked away. Seeing Hong Yuzhou's figure completely disappear, Qin Fei clenched her fist and was very excited. The white-robed maid named Larry wanted to congratulate Qin Fei, but she saw Qin Fei make a gesture to her to keep quiet. Larry immediately swallowed the words she was about to say. Hong Yuzhou's ability was too strong. If he heard it, this matter would be ruined. The next day, when the students of the Superstar Academy opened the academy system, a message box popped up. When they opened it, it turned out that the goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple was coming to visit the academy tomorrow. This news made the Superstar Academy in an uproar. As the representative of the Superstar Divine Temple's image, every goddess of the Superstar Divine Temple was incomparably beautiful. Wrapped in the aura of the Superstar Divine Temple, they appeared extremely mysterious. Many people wanted to see such a goddess's face. Especially the male students, when they heard the news, it was as if they were dope. To the star goddess to see them, to see the goddess, it was to see the goddess, it was. What they did not know was that the goddess came to Superstar Academy just to see Yang Tian. When Yang Tian stepped out of a teleportation formation disk on Ancient Fallen Star, he saw a dark, blood-red world. This world was like the Earth's environment before life was born, which was simulated by humans on Earth. The sky was filled with dark clouds, volcanoes were everywhere on the ground, the air was filled with the smell of sulfur, and the oxygen content was extremely low. At the same time, the gravity of this planet was stronger than planet Ketla. Under such an environment, a normal human from Earth would not be able to survive. Crack! Boom! In the sky far away, a red light suddenly flashed, and a thick lightning bolt struck the ground, causing a loud sound. As if to coordinate with the lightning bolt, a volcano that was hit by the lightning suddenly erupted, spewing red magma into the sky. Although the environment was harsh, there were strong green plants growing on the ground. The surrounding volcanoes that had cooled down were also covered with trees. Although the environment was harsh, there were still a lot of humans living on it. The formation that Yang Tian and the others came out of was built halfway up the mountain, and it was covered by a building that looked like a pavilion. In this pavilion, there was a square table, and a dark-skinned man wearing tattered black armor was sitting in front of the table with a large cup of water. Seeing Yang Tian and Soli walk out of the formation and look around, he did not say anything. It was not until Yang Tian and the others looked at him that the man said, "According to Planet Ancient Meteorites rules, everyone gets one stellar crystal. Under normal circumstances, teleportation fees would not be charged when coming from other places. In other words, it was a one-way fee. But here, it was a two-way fee. Yang Tian and Soli did not want to get into trouble, so they immediately took out a stellar crystal from their storage bracelets and threw it to the man. Yang Tian only threw it casually, but Soli added some power to the stellar crystal she threw. The man caught Yang Tian's stellar crystal and quickly put it on the table. He then raised his hand and caught the stellar crystal that Soli threw. Bang! What the man did not expect was that as soon as the stellar crystal fell into his hand, it quickly fell down and hit the stone table with his arm, making a muffled sound. Fortunately, the stone table was thick enough and did not break or crack. The man rubbed his sore arm and looked at Soli with a frown. Soli only curled her lips, then turned and walked down the mountain path toward the buildings that were as densely packed as a village. Yang Tian glanced at the burly man before turning around and walking down the mountain. When Yang Tian and the others were more than 100 meters away, the man covered his ears and whispered, "The intruder is very powerful. Don't provoke him." With that, the man let out a long sigh and frowned. Yang Tian saw what happened just now and naturally understood why Soli did that. In this barbaric place where strength was respected, it was necessary to show his strength to the other party and let them know that he was not to be trifled with. Yang Tian could also do what Soli did just now. Although it seemed simple, it was very difficult for a star meteor cultivator. The two walked quickly along the path down the mountain. After about 10 minutes, they arrived at the town at the foot of the mountain. On the way, Yang Tian sensed the presence of some people nearby, but none of them appeared. He naturally knew the reason. The town at the foot of the mountain was called Blackstone Town. He did not know who came up with this name. Was it because all the houses were made of black stone? After entering the town, Yang Tian saw some dark-skinned and muscular people. Seeing Yang Tian and Soli arrive, these people kept sizing them up. Yang Tian saw that there was no friendliness in these people's eyes. If Yang Tian and Soli did not emit a powerful aura, they would probably swarm over. Yang Tian could not help but sigh. As expected of the small dark star field, people born here always had a dangerous aura around them. Soli and Yang Tian came to this town not to live here or for food, but to locate their location. After arriving at the center of the town, Soli took out a smart device from her storage bracelet and tapped on it a few times. After about 10 seconds, Soli turned around and said to Yang Tian, "The location has been found. Let's go." Yang Tian nodded. Then, the two walked out of the town. As soon as Yang Tian and Soli arrived on Ancient Fallen Star, Absolute Beginning Star arrived with 5 intermediate students and a dozen family guards wrapped in black armor. The group stood on the mountain and looked down. They saw Yang Tian and Soli. Seeing the two of them leave the town and disappear behind a hill, Absolute Beginning Star smiled. Chapter 300. As they walked, Soli said, "We are going to a teleportation entrance on planet Ancient Meteorite. That place is very secretive. The location of this kind of entrance could only be known after accepting the project experience. As for where this information came from, it was estimated that only the people who issued this mission in the Academy would know. The system of the Academy was very good. Outside, many cultivators wanted to find opportunities to gain experience, but in the Superstar Academy, they only needed to accept missions. However, what benefits did this mission bring to the Academy? Yang Tian did not understand, so he asked, "What will the Academy get after this mission is completed?" When Soli heard Yang Tian's question, she stopped and turned to look at Yang Tian. "The benefit of the Academy is that we students have feelings for the Academy. In the future, even if you leave the Academy and don't choose to take a position in the temple, you will not forget that you came from the Superstar Academy. Since it was the Academy that nurtured you, if the Superstar Divine Temple summons you in the future, as long as there is no loss to you, or the loss is not great, will you help the Superstar Divine Temple?" Soli's question was very easy for others to answer. As long as they answered yes, it would be fine. because this was also the truth, but for Yang Tian thought for a while and said, "If nothing unexpected happens, I will. If one day I become enemies with the superstar divine temple, of course, this is just a hypothesis, and I will return this favor." Soli nodded and continued to walk forward, saying, "What you said is true, and also a little arrogant. In this universe, there are very few people who dare to become enemies with the superstar divine temple." Very few did not mean that there was none. Yang Tian wanted to say this, but he kept his mouth shut. The two walked very fast. The ravines that were difficult for ordinary people to cross were easily crossed by the two of them. The mountains that could not be climbed were also quickly climbed. About 3 hours later, Soli brought Yang Tian to the foot of a large active volcano. This volcano looked like a nuclear reactor. Faint smoke was coming out of the crater, and the surrounding air was filled with a stronger smell of sulfur than other places. The oxygen content was also very low. Yang Tian and Soli both held their breath. If they absorbed too much of this poisonous gas, their bodies wouldn't be able to withstand it. At this moment, Soli pointed at the volcano and said to Yang Tian, "The teleportation entrance is under the magma in that volcano." Under the magma? Then how was he supposed to enter? Yang Tian furrowed his brows. It seemed that this trip was more difficult than he had imagined. They hadn't even reached the real tomb, yet they had to face such difficulties. Soli had the same expression on her face. "Let's go." Although this is an active volcano, it seems to have just erupted. It shouldn't erupt again in a short period of time. After saying that, Soli quickly walked toward the volcano ahead. "Wait," Yang Tian said. Soli had just walked 10 meters when she heard Yang Tian's voice and immediately stopped. Yang Tian turned his head and said to the little blue dragon on his shoulder, "Xiao Long, it's up to you now." Squeak! The little blue dragon cried out twice and shot into the air, turning into a green shadow that rose into the sky and quickly turned into a huge dragon. Seeing the little blue dragon grow from a small one to such a huge one, Soli was surprised and widened her eyes. The little blue dragon circled in the sky and swooped down, stopping in front of Yang Tian. Yang Tian jumped lightly and sat on the little blue dragon's back. "Come on up." Yang Tian looked at Soli and said with a smile. Soli nodded and sat on the little blue dragon's back. The little blue dragon took the two of them and rushed toward the crater. Leaping over like this was faster and safer than walking. A minute later, Yang Tian and the others arrived above the crater and looked down. This volcanic crater, which had a diameter of several hundred meters, was filled with rolling red lava. It was like a big pot of boiling soup. The teleportation portal was right under the lava. How could they get in? The teleportation portal was built under the lava. It was really a strange setting. Who knew how the Dark Star Monarch came up with it? With today's technology, it was very easy to dive into the lava with a temperature of several thousand degrees. Yang Tian turned around and looked at Soli, who was thinking, hoping that she had brought the equipment. Seeing Yang Tian looking at her, Soli said, "It's not as simple as you think. The Dark Star Monarch doesn't like technology. The mechanisms he designed will definitely be destroyed by high-tech tools." Yang Tian nodded. This was not impossible. Cultivators trusted their own bodies and weapons the most. They were naturally repulsed by things that required a high level of skill and were easily damaged. When Yang Tian was about to jump down, Soli took out her double whips from her storage bracelet and shook the handles. With a crack, the hard whips in Soli's hands turned into long soft whips, just like when she was fighting with Yang Tian. Soli shook again and let go of the whips. Under her control, the soft whips she threw out turned into a tornado and quickly fell toward the crater. To Yang Tian's surprise, Soli also jumped down and was submerged in the black tornado-shaped whip shadows. The black tornado was like a high-speed spinning drill, drilling into the magma in an instant. The rapidly spinning soft whips immediately separated the red lava. Looking down from above, The red lava looked like a big whirlpool. Soli's use of this kind of soft whips had reached the acme of perfection. Who knew what kind of power she was using? Bloodline power? It didn't look like it. It was more like Chi Meridian power. Yang Tian had some understanding of Chi Meridian power. This kind of power sounded similar to the kind of energy that flowed in the meridians that humans on Earth talked about. It was like practicing Qigong. The black tornado soon disappeared in the lava, which made Yang Tian a little worried. However, he also wanted to believe that Soli would never do this if she wasn't confident. Sure enough, after a few minutes, the surface of the lava spun rapidly again, and a black tornado rushed out of the lava. When this black tornado flew out of the crater, it slowed down, and Soli's figure finally appeared. Yang Tian saw that Soli was at the bottom of the black tornado. Soon, Soli withdrew the black soft whips and swung them toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian raised his hand and caught the whip. Soli pulled and used the force to fly up and land on the little blue dragon's back. Phew! After sitting on the little blue dragon's back, Soli let out a long breath. At this time, Yang Tian saw that Soli's long blue hair was a little curly from the heat, and her forehead was covered in sweat. "Did you find it?" Yang Tian asked curiously. Soli nodded and said, "The deeper you go into this crater, the smaller the opening becomes. There's a bubble-like thing on the rock wall. The teleportation formation disk is inside." Chapter 301. Now that he had found the location, things would be easier. "I can go in alone, but it'll be troublesome if I bring someone with me," Soli said after thinking for a moment. Soli used her special whip to create a localized space that required a lot of energy to control. If she brought Yang Tian with her, she wouldn't be able to use it. Yang Tian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I have a way." Soli looked at Yang Tian's confident expression and nodded. Just like before, Soli used her whip to create a black tornado and fell into the magma. The powerful stirring force made the magma in the crater spin again, forming a large vortex. When Soli's whip was about to disappear into the magma, Yang Tian jumped high and plunged into the magma below. The little blue dragon quickly shrank. When Yang Tian's body was about to touch the hot magma, it turned into a green shadow and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. When Yang Tian's head was 2 feet away from the magma was separated. It was as if there was an invisible cover outside Yang Tian's body. The reason for this was that Yang Tian used his mental power. Magma was a substance. Since mental power could move stellar crystals, it could also be used to repel liquid magma. This was the first time Yang Tian used his mental power to protect his body and jump into the magma. However, he was confident because he had tested it with water in his daily life. However, this method consumed a lot of mental power. When Yang Tian entered the magma, he felt that his mental power was being consumed at an extremely fast speed. He estimated the time. In this case, it would be good if he could last for an hour. While using his mental power to maintain the shield outside, Yang Tian sensed Soli's position. Although Yang Tian's mental power was blocking a high-temperature substance like the magma, he could determine the flow of the magma and the sounds inside through the feedback of his mental power. All of a sudden, a bubbling sound came from the left. Yang Tian immediately controlled his mental power. By constantly changing its strength, it produced a kind of fluctuating power that pushed his body to move. The speed was very fast. In less than a minute, Yang Tian crashed into a very elastic object. Yang Tian narrowed his eyes and strengthened his mental power. With a pop sound, Yang Tian instantly felt the pressure around him lighten. Blue light appeared in his eyes as his body suddenly accelerated downwards. At this moment, Soli swept her whip at Yang Tian and pulled Yang Tian over. Yang Tian landed next to an array disk that was emitting blue light. Yang Tian raised his head and looked up. In the dim blue light, he could see that the top of his head and his surroundings were surrounded by dark red magma. Under the illumination of the blue light, he could vaguely see that there were constantly moving and messy black lines in the magma. This place was indeed like a bubble. This reminded Yang Tian of the bubbles that stuck to the walls of the cup when pouring water. If I'm not wrong, this space is made with a kind of electromagnetic frequency. This electromagnetic wave can interact with the magma. If you bring electronic equipment, it's very likely that you'll destroy this place. After saying this, Soli immediately said, "Let's go." With that, she stepped onto the teleportation array disc. Yang Tian also stepped onto it. After a flash of blue light, Yang Tian's vision became clear. At this moment, Yang Tian and the others had come to a completely enclosed triangular space. It looked like the inside of a huge pyramid, because looking up, the higher they went, the smaller the space seemed. Above their heads and around them, the bricks that seemed to be cut from stone were all glowing dots. The light emitted by the countless dots illuminated the spacious space very brightly. This place was extremely spacious. There was nothing except for the array disc embedded in the ground. After walking out of the array disc, Soli took out a detection device from her storage bracelet. This was a silver-white spherical flying object the size of a soccer ball. After taking it out, Soli pressed a few buttons on it. The ball-shaped detector quickly circled around the space and landed in Soli's hand. Under Soli's operation, the spherical device was divided into two halves, projecting a three-dimensional triangular figure with the dimensions marked on it. "There's no problem with the air. We can breathe." Sighs. Looking at the data above, Soli finished and took a deep breath. Yang Tian also let out a mouthful of turbid air and breathed slowly. He suddenly felt his chest lighten, and it was not as stuffy as when he was holding his breath. Yang Tian looked at the displayed pattern and estimated according to the data on it. This triangular space was a triangular body, about 500 meters from the ground to the top. The array disc seemed to be a one-way transmission. When Yang Tian and Soli walked out of the array disc was extinguished. Soli turned around and said to Yang Tian, "The building materials here are specially made. The device can only scan the surface and can't go deep inside. Let's split up and look around to see if there are any exits." Yang Tian nodded. Next, the two of them walked around in this sealed space. More than 10 minutes later, a stone slab under Yang Tian's feet was moved. Then, there was a rumbling sound in the entire space. The mechanism here was finally triggered. In the center of the ground, about 30 meters long and wide, a piece of ground slowly sank with the sound of shaking. During this process, the 3 stone walls made of bricks also slowly moved back, making the space bigger and bigger. Yang Tian and Soli stood on the spot, waiting for the change. After the 30-meter long and wide area in the middle sank, something rose up from below. The first thing that appeared was 4 black pillars with a diameter of 1 meter. It was unknown what material they were made of. When the pillars appeared in front of Yang Tian, a pair of horns appeared. Then, a huge, black dragon head. Seeing this black dragon head, Yang Tian couldn't help but open his eyes wide, his face full of surprise. This was the second dragon he saw. The first was of course the little blue dragon. The second was this huge black dragon that appeared. Yang Tian was surprised, but the little blue dragon was even more surprised than Yang Tian, because it finally saw its own kind, although the color of this one was different from its own. When the rumbling sound stopped, a square platform that protruded 1 meter out of the ground appeared in the center of the 30 meters long and wide area. On the platform was a black dragon with its eyes closed. This dragon looked very huge, its body nearly 2 meters in diameter. It was obviously not a dragon corpse, but in a deep sleep. From its huge body there was an extremely strong fluctuation of life. Such an unfamiliar dragon made Yang Tian and Soli feel great pressure. Chapter 302. Boom! There was a final loud sound in the sealed space. After this sound, the moving brick wall finally stabilized. During this process, the space had doubled in size. At this moment, looking at the sleeping dragon in front of them, Yang Tian and Soli looked at each other and nodded. Then, both of them took out their weapons and were ready to fight at any time. From the qi emitted by this black dragon, Yang Tian and Soli could tell that this was a peak planetary state exotic beast. Under normal circumstances, exotic beasts of the same state were stronger than humans. This was because the physique of exotic beasts was completely different from humans. Exotic beasts' bodies could naturally contain more energy, and they also had heritage memories and rich combat experience. They could unleash their abilities to the extreme. The disadvantage was that exotic beasts' thoughts were not as flexible as humans. The form of energy they possessed was fixed and difficult to change, unless they evolved to the highest level. The little blue dragon lay on Yang Tian's shoulder, its eyes wide open without blinking. If it encountered other exotic beasts, the little blue dragon would be filled with the desire to fight. But at this moment, the little blue dragon's eyes were filled with excitement and curiosity. This was because the little blue dragon also wanted to know where its home was, whether it had parents, and how it was born. Yang Tian and Soli walked slowly, approaching the sleeping black dragon. When the two were about 30 meters away from the black dragon suddenly opened its eyes. This big guy finally woke up. Seeing the black dragon open its eyes, Yang Tian and Soli immediately stopped. Perhaps because it had been sleeping for a long time, the black dragon opened its eyes with a confused expression. But soon, a ferocious light appeared in its eyes, and a powerful force erupted from its body. At the same time, it raised its huge head. No one knew how long this guy had been sleeping like this. When its body moved, some dust fell from the surface of its body. A cloud of dust wrapped around it, making its body blurry in the eyes of Yang Tian and Soli. Yang Tian and Soli moved and quickly retreated. Roar! The black dragon suddenly poked its head out of the dust and let out a roar. In this enclosed space, this roar caused Yang Tian's saber to tremble slightly. After a roar, the black dragon shook its head. Its body moved and circled in the air. It waved its 4 huge dragon claws and looked at Yang Tian and the others with a fierce gaze. Creak, creak! At this time, the little blue dragon roared twice, turned into a green shadow, and flew into the sky. In the eyes of Yang Tian and Soli, the little blue dragon turned into an azure dragon that was as big as the black dragon in the blink of an eye. This black dragon had long noticed the little blue dragon. When the little blue dragon transformed into a green dragon, there was no surprise in its eyes. After transforming, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and let out a low howl. As soon as the little blue dragon's cry fell, the black dragon also let out a similar cry. The two dragons were speaking in dragon language. To humans, it was just a simple cry, but they didn't know that this cry was actually formed by many voices of different height. The meaning of a low roar could only be described in a few words by humans. The two dragons roared and began to communicate. During this process, the auras of the little blue dragon and the black dragon became stronger and stronger, as if they were about to start fighting at any time. Yang Tian had part of the inherited memories of the dragon race. Even his body had been modified, so he could naturally understand the conversation between the two dragons. Standing beside Yang Tian, Soli saw that Yang Tian was frowning from time to time and knew that Yang Tian might understand dragon language. "What are the two star beasts talking about?" Soli asked curiously. Yang Tian didn't immediately answer Soli. When the little blue dragon and the black dragon suddenly fell silent, Yang Tian said, "Xiaolong asked the black dragon if these two dragons were relatives?" The black dragon replied that Xiaolong wasn't. They belonged to different branches of the dragon race. In the dragon race, apart from the black dragon and the azure dragon, there were also yellow dragons, silver dragons, blue dragons, purple dragons. There were countless species, and the various dragon races didn't interact with each other. However, they lived in the same vast star field in the universe, which was a very beautiful place. The little blue dragon asked again, where was the dragon star field? The little blue dragon wanted to go to that star field to find its parents. The black dragon replied that the star field was extremely far away, just like ordinary humans on a planet looking at the stars in the sky. Therefore, they were also called star beasts. As for the specific location, the black dragon didn't know. In fact, the black dragon also wanted to go home. After Yang Tian finished speaking, he told Soli, in the dragon language, the word star has the meaning of distant. Soli nodded. Many experts have such star beasts as pet beasts, but I didn't expect that there would be so many species, and that they would occupy such a vast star field. This kind of star beast is indeed smarter than ordinary exotic beasts. It would be great if I had such a star beast as a pet beast. Soli sighed and asked again, from the looks of it, they don't seem to be friendly now. What else did they say? Yang Tian smiled and said, Xiaolong discussed with the black dragon to let us leave here, but the black dragon didn't allow it. It said that it had to defeat it first. Roar, roar, dragons were very short-tempered. A moment ago they were still having a friendly conversation, but now they were about to fight. The little blue dragon and the black dragon couldn't reach an agreement and roared one after another. This roar was filled with a strong fighting spirit. Yang Tian pulled Soli and turned around, running towards the corner of this sealed space. The fight between the two dragons would definitely be very fierce. It was best to hide for the time being. Otherwise, they would be involved in their battle. Soon, Yang Tian pulled Soli to a corner of this triangular space. The space here was very small. No matter how the two dragons fought, it probably wouldn't affect this place. Yang Tian leaned against the wall and sat down. Soli looked at Yang Tian and asked, Your pet beast is fighting. Aren't you going to help it? Yang Tian smiled and said, Xiaolong has already told me not to interfere. Otherwise, the two of us and Xiaolong would be able to kill the black dragon very quickly. Although Yang Tian said it casually, he was worried about the little blue dragon. Not long after Yang Tian and the others entered this enclosed space, Genesis Star also led a group of people to the crater of the volcano. The entrance is down there. Gua, it's up to you. Genesis Star looked at the boiling magma in the crater of the volcano and said to a muscular man wrapped in black armor. The man in black armor nodded. Then, he jumped down and plunged into the boiling magma. Boom, boom, boom. A few minutes later, the entire volcano began to tremble as if it was about to erupt, making rumbling sound. Poof! Suddenly, the man in black armor, who had jumped into the magma, broke out of the magma and landed in front of Genesis Star with a formation plate about 5 meters in diameter. This man in black armor took out the formation plate directly from below. Chapter 303. Puing, the black-armored man threw the disc on the ground. It made a dull sound as it collided with the cold hard rock. The disc was about 5 meters in diameter and 1 meter in thickness. It weighed a few thousand pounds. However, this black-armored man was able to carry it and eject it out of the magma effortlessly. Yang Tian and Soli were unable to do so. This black-armored man was a stellar-level elite. From how Absolute Beginning Star addressed him, they knew that his name was Gua. There were many families and forces in the universe. These families were rich and powerful and had recruited many elite. The stellar-level Gua was one of them. The family that Absolute Beginning Star belonged to was the Absolute Beginning family. It was an ancient family with great power. No one knew what this disc was made of. Not only was it heavy, but it was also not damaged after being thrown on the ground by Gua. Its surface was still spinning slowly and emitting a faint blue light. Gua clapped his hands and asked, They must have used this disc to teleport to the tomb of the Dark Star King. Should we follow them? Absolute Beginning Star did not have an arrogant attitude towards Gua. He smiled and said, They just went over. Let's not disturb them. Let's wait for a while. If we have to wait, why don't we go back to Blackstone Town? The environment here is not good. It's too uncomfortable, Zhu Liang said with a frown. Absolute Beginning Star smiled and nodded. He waved his hand and put away the disc into his storage bracelet. He then turned and walked down the volcano. Rumble, a few minutes after Absolute Beginning Star and the others left, the ground began to shake with the volcano as the center. The volcano began to erupt like a chimney. No one knew if it was because the disc was taken away and triggered the trap set by the Dark Star King, or if it was because Gua had broken the balance inside the volcano. Why don't we go now? Ali Fei asked as the group walked quickly. Absolute Beginning Star did not say anything. Zhu Liang said, "There must be a trap in the tomb of the Dark Star King. If we go now, won't we be helping them?" Ali Fei nodded. He understood this as well. It was just that he was more impatient than Absolute Beginning Star. At the same time, he could not control his mouth. That was why he asked. The little blue dragon and the black dragon floated in the air above the sealed space. They looked at each other, and the light they emitted became colder and colder. At the same time, the aura of the two dragons became more and more intense. According to Yang Tian's judgment, the little blue dragon should be stronger than the black dragon. However, Yang Tian could clearly feel that the little blue dragon was not as calm as the black dragon. After all, it hadn't been long since the little blue dragon came out of the egg, and no one knew how long the black dragon had been sleeping here. Exotic beasts needed to consume energy during their hibernation, just like animals hibernating. Perhaps that black dragon was a stellar-level exotic beast at its peak. This space was prepared for the black dragon. Once it appeared, the space doubled in size. It was actually to make it more convenient for the black dragon to fight. As Yang Tian expected, the little blue dragon was the first to attack. It swung its tail, raised its upper body, and swam quickly. It opened its mouth and bit at the black dragon's neck. Although they were both dragons, the little blue dragon did not show any mercy and attacked the opponent's fatal spot. The black dragon was also very fast. It raised its body and dodged the little blue dragon's mouth. It then slapped at the little blue dragon's head with its claw. Pung! The little blue dragon was hit by the claw. With a muffled sound, the black dragon slammed it to the ground. When it landed, the little blue dragon flew into the air as soon as it touched the ground. The claw did not seem to have hurt it. Roar! The black dragon raised its upper body and waved its two front claws. It looked at the little blue dragon and let out a low howl. Soli was very curious about the battle between the two dragons. At this time, she turned to look at Yang Tian and asked, "What is that black astral beast saying?" Yang Tian did not even turn his head and said, "This black guy said that Xiao Long is too impatient." Boom! As soon as Yang Tian finished speaking, the little blue dragon opened its mouth and spat out a hot dragon flame at the black dragon. The black dragon immediately swam and dodged. The black dragon also knew how to spit fire. After dodging, it also opened its mouth and spat out flames at the little blue dragon. However, the black dragon's flames were red. The little blue dragon also dodged immediately. Boom! 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 Next, the little blue dragon and the black dragon continued to swim and spit out dragon flames at each other. The high temperature of the dragon flames caused the temperature in this enclosed space to rise rapidly. After a few minutes, the little blue dragon finally seized the opportunity. When the black dragon dodged, it whipped the black dragon's back with its tail and slammed the black dragon to the ground. Boom! With a loud bang, the black dragon fell to the ground. The stone slabs on the ground were smashed, the stones were scattered everywhere, and the entire space shook. Yang Tian could see that although the black dragon was calm, this guy's reaction was slower than the little blue dragon. He did not know if it was because it had slept for too long, but its body had not moved yet. The black dragon immediately got up from the ground and roared. With a swing of its tail, it pounced at the little blue dragon above its head. The little blue dragon retaliated and seemed to be a little proud. Seeing the black dragon pounce, it did not dodge. Instead, it opened its mouth and bit at the black dragon. For the little blue dragon, this was simply a gift. However, the little blue dragon's bite failed to hit the black dragon. Because when the black dragon was about to approach the little blue dragon, it suddenly swooped down and swam quickly under the little blue dragon's body, its body undulating like waves. Pung! It was the little blue dragon's chin that was hit by the black dragon's tail. Its upper body was lifted up and its body rolled a few times in the air uncontrollably. The black dragon, who had rich combat experience, suddenly turned his head, opened his mouth, and bit at the little blue dragon. At this critical moment, the little blue dragon lowered its head and hit the black dragon with its dragon horns. The black dragon dodged again, and slapped the little blue dragon's back with its claws. Purring, the little blue dragon was once again slapped down by the black dragon and smashed to the ground. It had the same ending as the black dragon that was slapped down by it just now. The angry little blue dragon immediately got up from the ground, shook its body, and quickly flew into the air. Crack boom! At this time, the little blue dragon's dragon horns suddenly lit up and a flash of lightning struck the black dragon. The speed of the lightning was very fast. The black dragon had no time to dodge. After being hit, its body trembled. The little blue dragon seized this opportunity and quickly rushed up and bit the black dragon's neck. Roar! The black dragon let out a scream. Its long body swayed and shook off the little blue dragon. A rain of blood and several pieces of scales fell from the sky. The black dragon, who had shaken off the little blue dragon, went completely crazy. The black hair on its head stood up. It opened its mouth and pounced toward the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon also showed its bestial nature at this time. When it saw the black dragon pouncing, it did not avoid it. Instead, it met it head-on. Pung! The two dragons slammed together. Chapter 304. Pung! 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 The little blue dragon and the black dragon kept colliding with each other and then separated again. Then, the two dragons once again pounced on each other and intertwined with each other. When beasts fought, they seemed to be much more brutal than when humans fought. They used their mouths to bite, claws to scratch, and headbutt. Bright red dragon blood and dragon scales were constantly splashing down from the sky. Yang Tian looked at the battle between the little blue dragon and the black dragon. He could not help but clench his fists. He was very worried for the little blue dragon. This was a battle between the little blue dragon and the black dragon. The little blue dragon did not allow him to intervene before. It was really annoying. But it seemed that the little blue dragon had the upper hand. It was young and strong, full of vitality. On the other hand, the black dragon was like an old man who had been sleeping for a long time, and his reaction was a little slow. Boom! Suddenly, the two dragons that were entangled together fell to the ground. Roar! 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 As they kept rolling on the ground, they let out low and angry roars from time to time from their mouths. They took the opportunity to bite each other. It seemed that this was the final battle. Boom! 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 In the enclosed space, the bodies of the two dragons collided on the ground, making a particularly loud sound. As they tumbled, the ground and the three thick brick walls trembled with them. Pung! Suddenly, the little blue dragon hit the black dragon's head with his head. The powerful collision force finally separated the little blue dragon and the black dragon. Crack boom! The little blue dragon took this opportunity and struck the black dragon with a bolt of lightning. Yang Tian had already seen that the lightning was the little blue dragon's special ability, but the black dragon did not have this kind of attack. After the black dragon's scarred body was hit by the lightning, it trembled for a while. The little blue dragon quickly pounced and bit the black dragon's neck, shaking its head vigorously. At this moment, the little blue dragon still had a lot of power. As for the black dragon, it seemed to be on the verge of exhaustion. With this bite, the little blue dragon didn't let go. With a roar, it breathed out thick white air, and its eyes were filled with a ferocious light. The little blue dragon's body was also covered with wounds. In some places, the dragon's scales had fallen off, and there were large wounds that were bleeding profusely. The blood of the two dragons dyed the ground red. Suddenly, the two dragons stopped moving. However, the little blue dragon was still biting the black dragon's neck and not letting go. Its eyes were equally ferocious. Roar! After a long time, the black dragon finally let out a deep roar. This was the message of admitting defeat. The black dragon admitted defeat, and the little blue dragon finally let go. At this moment, Yang Tian saw that there were several holes the size of human fists on the black dragon's neck. These holes were obviously made by the little blue dragon's teeth. As soon as the little blue dragon let go, blood flowed out of the wound like a fountain. As the blood flowed out, the black dragon's life aura was rapidly weakening. The light in its eyes also dimmed. Roar! The little blue dragon let out a low cry and gently nudged the black dragon with its head. After letting go of the black dragon, the ferocious light in the little blue dragon's eyes disappeared, and it suddenly became very sad. This was like two humans who cherished each other and had to fight to the death. After the winner was decided, the winner looked at the opponent who was about to die and was very sad. Roar! The black dragon also let out a low cry in response to the little blue dragon. Just like before, the two gigantic dragons began their final communication. What are they talking about? At this moment, Soli asked Yang Tian curiously. Yang Tian sighed and said, Xiaolong is very sad. He asked the black dragon if it wants to live anymore and if it can be helped. The black dragon told the little blue dragon that there's no need. He asked the little blue dragon to bring his pair of dragon horns back to the dragon clan. Ever since he left the dragon starfield, he hasn't returned home. He really wants to go back. After Yang Tian finished speaking, Soli also sighed helplessly and said, So exotic beasts also miss home. Yang Tian nodded. At this moment, a lonely expression appeared in the little blue dragon's eyes. Yang Tian didn't need to guess to know that the little blue dragon also missed home. Yang Tian's home was on Earth, but the little blue dragon's home was not. It didn't even know its parents. At this moment, the black dragon suddenly opened its mouth, and a football-sized light red sphere emitting a red halo rushed out of its mouth. Dragon Pearl. As soon as he saw this sphere, Yang Tian knew that this red sphere was the black dragon's inner core, which was also the dragon pearl. This black dragon's dragon pearl floated in the air under the black dragon's control. After spitting out the dragon pearl, the black dragon closed its eyes. Its huge body no longer had any signs of life, and the dragon pearl floating in the air suddenly lost its light and turned into a light red and gray sphere, falling to the ground. The little blue dragon opened its mouth and held the black dragon's dragon pearl in its mouth. Roar! The little blue dragon held the black dragon's dragon pearl in its mouth, raised its head, and roared. This sound was filled with sorrow. Hearing this cry, Yang Tian's eyes turned red. After the little blue dragon finished roaring, it shook its head, turned around, and walked toward Yang Tian. It stopped in front of Yang Tian and lowered its huge head. Yang Tian patted the little blue dragon's head and comforted it. Xiaolong, don't be sad. In the future, I will definitely take you to find that galaxy and send you home. Roar! The little blue dragon nodded, let out a low cry, and let go of its mouth. The black dragon's dragon pearl fell and was caught by Yang Tian. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian that this was left for it by the black dragon, but it didn't want to swallow it and gave it to Yang Tian. After Yang Tian caught the black dragon's dragon pearl, he put it into his storage bracelet and didn't say anything. At this time, the black dragon's huge body changed. After the blood in its body was drained, its body became a little dry. When Yang Tian put away the dragon pearl, the body began to emit black smoke. Yang Tian and Soli both opened their eyes wide and looked at this huge dragon corpse. The black dragon's body burned from the inside out at an extremely fast speed, and soon turned into a pile of ashes. Only a pair of dragon horns was left. This pair of dragon horns that looked like tree forks were burned by the flames inside the dragon corpse. The surface crystallized and became very beautiful. It looked like a black gem. After the dragon horns cooled down, Yang Tian squatted down and stroked the dragon horns. In order to not let the little blue dragon look at these dragon horns and feel sad, Yang Tian immediately put them into his storage bracelet. Yang Tian heard what the black dragon said to the little blue dragon before it died. If he went to the dragon starfield in the future, Yang Tian would give this pair of dragon horns to the Black Dragon clan. Not only humans, but the intelligent dragon clan also valued returning to their roots. Once the Black Dragon died, Yang Tian and the others could leave. The exit of this sealed space was on the square platform where the Black Dragon had appeared. On that square platform there was a square entrance that led downwards. Chapter 305. The little blue dragon turned back into a mini Xiaolong and lay on Yang Tian's shoulder, closing its eyes to rest. Yang Tian and Soli stepped onto the square platform and looked at the square entrance. The entrance was about 3 meters wide and square, with a stone staircase extending downward. It was pitch black inside. Soli looked at the entrance, took out 2 flat round lamps from her storage bracelet, and handed one to Yang Tian. This kind of lamp had very high intensity and was very convenient to carry around. Yang Tian had even bought one. Since Soli took it out, Yang Tian didn't take it out from his storage bracelet. He placed the lamp on his shoulder and pressed a small button on it. Bright light was emitted from it. The light emitted by this kind of lamp was scattered and could illuminate a very long distance. It was made of countless small laser emitters gathered together. After turning on the lamp, the two walked along the stone staircase, one in front and one behind. Soli walked in front and Yang Tian behind. Yang Tian was 3 steps away from Soli. The stone staircase wound downwards, and there was a moldy smell in the air. Dark green moss grew on the brick walls on both sides. After walking for a while, Soli stopped and looked at the stone wall. She said to Yang Tian, "Don't breathe, the gas is poisonous." Yang Tian nodded and patted the little blue dragon. The little blue dragon squeaked a few times, indicating that it understood. The two held their breath and walked forward. Soli said while walking, "The plants on the brick walls can emit poisonous gas that we can't smell. I've seen it before. Although it can't kill people, it can paralyze our nerve. Normally, this kind of mechanism is set up to reduce the speed of intruders. The next mechanism we'll encounter will most likely require extreme speed to pass through." Soli was very experienced. She explained to Yang Tian while walking quickly. Soon, the two passed the stone staircase, and a blue world appeared in front of them. This was actually a space similar to an underground karst cave. The ground was completely blue, and it seemed to be filled with a very thick liquid. This liquid was like a melted blue gem, sparkling and shining. It looked very beautiful. Suddenly, a blue liquid column rose from the blue liquid and magnetized to the top of the cave more than 10 meters above the liquid surface, turning into countless blue beads. These blue beads dripped on the blue liquid like rain and melted back into the blue liquid. During this process, a smooth dent appeared on the top of the cave where the blue liquid column hit. It seemed that this liquid had a strong corrosive power. After the liquid column was shot up, there was another series of pu 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 sounds, and the blue liquid column shot up irregularly. Soli took out a large piece of fresh beast meat from her storage bracelet and threw it at the blue liquid. When the meat came into contact with the blue liquid, it splashed up circles of smooth milk tea-like ripples as if a stone was thrown into water. The meat sank first and then floated to the surface. At this moment, Yang Tian and Soli both stared at this large piece of meat with their eyes wide open. If this piece of meat was fine, it meant that this liquid wouldn't cause any harm to the human body. However, in the eyes of Yang Tian, Soli, and the little blue dragon, This piece of meat that floated to the surface quickly melted like a piece of ice under heat. It melted very quickly, as if countless ants were gnawing on it. It became smaller and smaller until it disappeared. Seeing this, Yang Tian and Soli both frowned with grave expressions. Then, Soli took out the ball-shaped detector from before and pressed a few buttons on it. The ball-shaped detector flew out of Soli's hand and hovered in the space ahead, collecting some samples. After the analysis, Yang Tian and the rest were surprised by the result. The blue liquid was not corrosive, but made up of countless small creatures. After these small creatures were magnified by the instrument, they looked like small blue tadpoles. Their bodies were covered with spikes, and they had 2 rows of long legs under their bellies. Their mouths were very large, and there were many sharp teeth in their mouth. The detector analyzed the composition of the teeth in this creature's mouth. Its hardness was close to the metal used to make spaceship shells. The surface of these microorganisms was covered in a smooth liquid like a protective shield. It also had a strong corrosive effect and had a paralyzing effect on the nerves of living creatures. Looking at the results of the analysis, Yang Tian could imagine what would happen if one were to fall into the liquid formed by these creatures and have their body quickly devoured. In just a few blinks of an eye, a person would be devoured to the point that not even their bones would be left. Moreover, they probably wouldn't feel any pain during this process. Soli looked at the other data of this creature and concluded that this creature had the ability to withstand cold and high temperatures. Using the temperature of humans on Earth, they could still remain active at a low temperature of -70 to 80 degrees, and they could only be killed at a high temperature of more than 500 degrees. What kind of creature is this? Yang Tian asked with a frown as he looked at the endless blue liquid that was formed by countless of these small insects. Soli didn't understand either. She first looked at the database before explaining to Yang Tian. In human language on Earth, this kind of insect was called a devouring insect. It could devour most organic matter to survive. It usually lived in high-pressure and high-temperature environments and lived in groups. Under special circumstances, they would even devour each other and grow infinitely. The enlarged insects could survive in the starry skies, and their reproduction method was division. However, when they devoured their own kind and became very large, they lost the ability to split and reproduce. Someone once found a devouring insect the size of a planet that fed on meteorites in the starry sky. From extremely small to extremely large, it could still survive in the starry sky. What kind of life form was this? Yang Tian couldn't help but sigh inwardly. The two of them looked ahead. In the blue liquid made of countless devouring insects, there were countless protruding black stones. Passing through these protruding stones was a very simple matter. However, these blue liquids spurted out blue pillars from time to time. After hitting the top, they sputtered everywhere like sparks. It was very troublesome to touch even a little bit. The two of them stood at the exit and watched quietly for a long time. Suddenly, Soli turned around and looked at Yang Tian. "My whip wind can't stop these devouring insects from penetrating. We can only rely on your mental power." This was the only way. Yang Tian's mental power could stop these insects. Yang Tian wasn't surprised that Soli saw through it. This was because Yang Tian had already used his mental power when passing through the magma. Yang Tian nodded. "Then let's go. I hope this cave isn't too long." With that, Yang Tian released his mental power and grabbed Soli's waist. With a leap of his legs, he dashed toward the cave filled with blue light. The protective shield formed by Yang Tian's mental power was like a big bubble, completely enveloping him and Soli. When Yang Tian had just run a distance with Soli, Genesis Star arrived with a group of people. Chapter 306. Sir Star, should we make a move? The black-armored Gua asked indifferently as he watched Yang Tian and Soli jump and dash through the blue liquid. Gua asked this because he saw the cold glint in Inception Star's eyes. He naturally understood the emotions expressed in Inception Star's eyes. Inception Star narrowed his eyes at Gua's question and sneered. If Inception Star can't get it, no one can. Then, let's destroy them together. No. As soon as Inception Star finished speaking, the slightly plump Zhu Liang hurriedly said, "Our academy forbids students from killing each other. This is against the rules." Zhu Liang now understood the true purpose of Inception Star's visit. Originally, he'd thought he was just here to watch the show. After all, following behind two experts of the same level and watching how they passed through one dangerous hurdle after another was a very exciting thing. He could also learn a lot. Even if he fought with the other for benefits in the end, it wouldn't be a big deal. But now, Inception Star wanted to take advantage of Yang Tian and Soli's moment of danger to make a move, putting Yang Tian's group in a desperate situation. This was really too vicious. The dark-skinned Ali Fei glanced at Zhu Liang with disdain and said, "If we don't kill them and the academy finds out that we broke the rules, do we have to wait to be punished? This is a small matter." Think about it, Inception Star accepted this training program before and then gave it up. Now that we're following behind them. Ali Fei didn't dare to continue after saying this, because he saw Inception Star's expression become more and more unsightly. If this matter were to spread, it would be extremely humiliating for Inception Star. Gua glanced at Zhu Liang at this moment and his figure moved. He transformed into a black shadow and charged into the cave filled with blue light. As he ran, Yang Tian constantly dodged the blue liquid columns that suddenly rose up from below. If he hadn't used instruments to magnify this liquid many times over, it would be very difficult to imagine that this blue liquid was actually made up of countless little bugs. The strange thing was that as Yang Tian ran, the liquid columns became denser and denser, and there seemed to be no end in sight. In less than a minute, Yang Tian had led Soli forward at least 1,000 meters. Although Yang Tian nimbly dodged during this process, he still came into contact with many of these blue liquid columns. They were all blocked outside by his mental power. The blue light in the cave was emitted by the blue insects and appeared very dim. Under the illumination of the light source on Yang Tian and Soli's chests, the blue light had a faint red hue, looking somewhat strange. Wu, suddenly, a figure flashed past Yang Tian's group and landed on the spot where Yang Tian was about to land on, the black rock that was protruding from the blue liquid. Yang Tian reacted quickly. He immediately stopped when he saw someone appear in front of him. The other party was a man whose entire body was wrapped in black armor. His body looked very strong. Yang Tian and Soli, who had stopped, both frowned and looked at the black-armored man. The aura from this person was much stronger than theirs. He was at least a stellar warrior. Yang Tian, Soli. At this moment, a faint voice came from the black-armored man's hood. It sounded like the voice of a middle-aged man. "Who are you? Why are you stopping us?" Yang Tian asked with a frown. While speaking, Yang Tian had already let go of Soli and took out a red longsword from his storage bracelet. Soli also took out her double whip. Fighting here was very disadvantageous for Yang Tian and the others. "You don't have the right to know who I am," the black-armored man said with a sneer. He suddenly jumped up and slapped at Yang Tian and Soli from a distance. When he slapped out, a powerful pressure attacked Yang Tian and the others. Yang Tian and Soli dodged to the side at the same time. Boom! There was a loud noise. The black-armored man's palm hit the black rock that Yang Tian and the others were standing on, shattering it. At the same time, blue liquid splashed everywhere, covering Yang Tian and Soli. Yang Tian had psychic power and was not afraid of the splashing blue liquid. Soli left the range of Yang Tian's psychic power and shook a long whip in her hand, blocking the splashing blue liquid. At the same time, Soli swung another long whip and pierced it into the gap in the ceiling. She then pulled hard and used the force to fall toward a rock that was protruding with blue liquid. Boom! However, Gua was even faster. Seeing that Soli had a place to land, He slapped out again and shattered the black rock under Soli's feet. How despicable! When Yang Tian saw this, he cursed inwardly and slashed at Gu Ao. A red wind blade shot out from the sword and rushed toward Gua. In the face of the incoming wind blade, Gu Ao merely lifted his palm. A strange power emerged from his palm and blocked the wind blade in front of him. He then waved his hand and neutralized Yang Tian's saber chi. The place where Soli landed was destroyed, and the blue liquid stirred up by Gua's palm force enveloped her. At this critical moment, she waved her long whip again, stirring up the air and repelling the blue liquid that was attacking her. The airflow formed in this way not only prevented the blue liquid from touching her, but she also used the force to fall toward another black rock that was protruding with blue liquid. The entire process looked extremely dangerous, but Soli calmly resolved it all. At this moment, Gua still did not let Soli go. He moved and pounced toward Soli. Yang Tian was shocked and slashed at Gua again. Yang Tian had used his mental power for this attack. As the red wind blade moved forward, it constantly changed its direction and locked onto Gu Ao's figure. Seeing Gua pouncing toward her, Soli landed on the black rock and immediately bounced to the side. Poof! At this moment there was a soft sound, and a blue liquid column suddenly erupted beside her, brushing past her body. It was too dangerous. If Soli was hit by this blue liquid, countless insects would crawl into her armor and bite her body. Gua, who was targeted by the red wind blade, had to give up attacking Soli. He slapped away the red wind blade and spun in the air, creating a powerful airflow that led the blue liquid column to the side. At the same time, Soli landed steadily on a black rock and lashed at Gua with her whip. Gua was in the air and had nowhere to borrow power. He kicked his feet in the air and dodged Soli's whip. Slap! Soli's whip missed, and the soft whip made of countless metal chains slapped the blue liquid, splashing blue liquid everywhere. Gua's body was very slippery in the air, as if it had been smeared with oil. He nimbly dodged the blue liquid and reached out his hand, flicking his fingers a few times in the air. Poof, poof, poof! The blue liquid swept by Gua's fingers shot toward Yang Tian and Soli. Chapter 307. Looking at the blue liquid shooting at him, Yang Tianyang quickly swung his saber, blocking the dozens of blue liquid droplets that came at him. On the other side, Soli waved her long whip, forming a whip shadow that blocked the blue droplets that Gua flicked at her. At this time, Yang Tian was surprised to find that one of Soli's long whips had begun to disintegrate. Just now, her whip had hit the blue liquid, and many blue bugs had stained it. He didn't expect that these bugs would be able to chew through Soli's soft whip. Soli noticed this problem, and after blocking the blue droplets, she abandoned the whip. Squeak, squeak! At this time, the little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder finally couldn't help but cry out. There was anger in the cry. With a flash, the little blue dragon rushed toward Gua. At this time, Gua's face hidden under the mask had a sneer. He was about to pounce on Soli again when he saw a green shadow rushing toward him. Gua had to give up his previous plan and punched at the little blue dragon. Facing Gua's powerful punch, the little blue dragon's figure suddenly turned in the air and swept past Gua's shoulder. During this process, there was an ear-piercing, metallic sound of friction. It turned out that the little blue dragon's claw had scratched the black armor on Gua's shoulder, leaving a long gash in Gua's armor. The little blue dragon's claws were much harder than Gua's black armor. Then there was a continuous ear-piercing sound of friction. The little blue dragon came behind Gua and quickly scratched a few times. After completing the attack on Gu Ao in a short period of time, a green shadow flashed as the little azure dragon left Gu Ao's attack range and returned to Yang Tian's shoulder. At this time, Gua finally stopped attacking Yang Tian and Soli and landed on a black rock protruding from the blue liquid about 10 meters away from Yang Tian. Crack! Gua slapped his neck and took off his helmet. What appeared in front of Yang Tian's eyes was the face of a middle-aged man. Gu Ao had a square face and a blue beard. His short hair was also blue. Crack, 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 crack. After taking off his helmet, there was a dense cracking sound from Gua's body. The black armor on his body disintegrated one by one and fell on the black rock under his feet. Some parts even rolled into the blue liquid. After Gua took off his armor, his strong body in a tight black suit was revealed. Poof! All of a sudden, a blue liquid column shot up from the black rock Gua was standing on. It hit the ceiling of the cave and scattered in all directions. Gua didn't care. Countless tiny blue droplets landed on Gua's body, staining his hair and skin. Gua's eyes A strange situation occurred. The blue liquid that had touched Gu Ao's skin actually seeped into his skin and disappeared. These blue bugs can't hurt me at all. Gua looked at Yang Tian and said calmly, "My cells can devour them." Was this the body of a star state? Yang Tian sized up Gua's strong body and was very surprised. "My name is Gu Ao. I was sent by Absolute Beginning Star to kill you all." Gu Ao sneered and said under the surprised gazes of Yang Tian and the rest. "Absolute Beginning Family." Gua's words made Soli frown and murmur. Gua glanced at Yang Tian and Soli and said, "Now you know my name and the reason I'm here. Then die in peace." Before Gua's voice faded, he charged at Soli again. This time Gua was even faster. He arrived in front of Soli in an instant and slapped Soli's chest with his palm. Soli didn't even have time to react before she was sent flying by Gua's palm strike, smashing into the blue liquid surface at a high speed. Seeing this, Yang Tian was shocked and shot at Soli. Gua had long noticed that Soli was the weakest between Yang Tian and Soli. That was why he had been constantly attacking Soli. Just as Soli's body was about to touch the blue liquid, Yang Tian arrived and entered the blue liquid with Soli in his arms. Yang Tian's rescue was very timely. Soli was only a planetary state, and her cells couldn't be as absurd as Gua's. If she were to fall into the blue liquid formed by countless devouring bugs, her body would probably be devoured very quickly. Yang Tian used his mental force to form a barrier around the two and sank into the liquid. During this process, Yang Tian could clearly sense through the feedback of his mental energy that countless small bugs were trying to pass through his mental energy barrier. The power of countless bugs forced Yang Tian and the rest to the surface. When Yang Tian and the rest sank into the blue liquid, Gua just looked coldly at the rippling blue liquid and didn't attack again. He wouldn't jump into the blue liquid to chase after Yang Tian and the rest. Although his cells could devour small bugs, there was a limit. If he fell into the liquid, he wouldn't be able to last long with just his body. Splurt! Suddenly, Yang Tian and Soli floated up from the blue liquid. During the process, Yang Tian was already prepared. As soon as he came out of the blue liquid, he jumped up with Soli in his arms and landed on a black rock. At this time, the little blue dragon left Yang Tian's shoulder again and flew to the top of the cave. During this process, the little blue dragon's body rapidly grew. At the same time, cyan flames were burning on its body. The blue liquid that splashed toward the little blue dragon turned into blue smoke as soon as it came into contact with the flames. Gua, who noticed the little blue dragon's change, frowned. After the little blue dragon grew bigger, it emitted a powerful qi. This qi made Gua have to take it seriously. Roar! The cave wasn't very big. After changing to a length of more than 10 meters, the little blue dragon stopped changing, opened its mouth, and roared at Gua. Gua looked at the little blue dragon on the top of the cave, narrowed his body slightly, moved, and shot toward the little blue dragon. Before he even touched the little blue dragon, he threw a punch at the little blue dragon. A powerful force came from Gua's fist and hit the little blue dragon. Rumble! After being hit by the powerful force, the little blue dragon's body kept rolling against the cave wall, knocking down countless protruding black stones and shaking the entire cave. This punch also caused some damage to the little blue dragon. A few dragon scales fell from the little blue dragon and fell into the blue liquid along with the black stones. Roar! Soon, the little azure dragon came to its senses. It steadied its body and roared angrily again. Then, it rushed toward Guao. Whoosh boom! During this process, the little blue dragon shot out a bolt of lightning toward Guo, opened its mouth, and spat out a hot dragon flame. Facing the little blue dragon's attack, Guo had to dodge again and again. At this time, watching the little blue dragon and Guo fight, Soli gritted her teeth and said, "This won't do. We're no match for him. His realm is much higher than ours." Yang Tian gritted his teeth and said to Soli, "You guys hold on for a while." With that, Yang Tian jumped into the blue liquid formed by countless devouring bugs. Soli saw this and opened her eyes wide, not understanding what Yang Tian was doing. However, she quickly took out another whip from her bracelet of holding. Crack! After taking out her backup weapon, Soli shook the hard whip and turned it into a soft whip. Holding the two soft whips, Soli jumped and rushed toward Guo. The two soft whips in her hands turned into countless whip shadows and shrouded Guo's flashing figure. Chapter 308. What was Yang Tian trying to do by jumping into the blue liquid made of countless devouring bugs? Not only Guo, but even Soli did not know. Pung! Facing the oncoming whip shadows, Gu Ao slapped out with his palm, scattering the layers of whip shadows that were heading towards him. He was about to pounce forward and give Soli a fatal blow when the little blue dragon pounced over and spat out a scorching dragon flame at him. Facing the little blue dragon's scorching flames, even Guo, who was a star warrior, did not dare to resist. If the little blue dragon was compared to a human, the little blue dragon's current state was equivalent to a peak planetary state human, but its combat power was much stronger than a planetary state zone lord. In other words, the little blue dragon's combat power was not much different from Guo's. If the little blue dragon fought Guo alone, it would definitely lose, but with Soli's help, it would take some time for Guo to defeat the human and dragon. This was also the decision Yang Tian made after estimating the situation. Yang Tian, who had dived into the blue liquid, tried his best to swim down. The surface of his body was covered with mental power, forming a barrier between him and the countless devouring bugs. After diving more than 10 meters into the blue liquid, Yang Tian immediately took out the black dragon inner core from his storage bracelet. This was what the black dragon gave to the little blue dragon before it died. The little blue dragon did not want to eat the inner core of its own kind, so it gave it to Yang Tian. Yang Tian was now a planetary state zone lord. Logically speaking, with the power of the dragon orb, his combat power should be comparable to a star warrior like Guo. However, during the battle just now, Yang Tian clearly realized that this was not the case at all. When he was a planetary state, if he was a planetary state warrior, with the power of the dragon orb, his combat power would be equivalent to a planetary state star warrior. When he was a planetary state star warrior, his combat power would be equivalent to a planetary state star king. However, when he was a planetary state zone lord, his combat power could not exceed a star warrior. This was because the planetary state and star state were two completely different states. If Yang Tian broke through to the stellar warrior level with the power of the Dragon Ball, his strength would be comparable to a stellar warlord. As long as he made a breakthrough, he would be able to defeat Guo. If he wanted to break through to the eternal star realm immediately, he would have to consume the black dragon inner core. Looking at the football-sized black dragon inner core in his hand, Yang Tian mobilized his mental power to block the countless devouring worms while channeling the power of the Dragon Ball in his body. The black dragon core that was enveloped by the power of Yang Tian's dragon pearl shrank at an extremely fast speed. Yang Tian's dragon pearl was the same type of energy as the black dragon inner core. It could easily break down the power of the black dragon inner core. In order to speed up, Yang Tian didn't care about his life anymore. A large amount of black dragon's Niden energy entered his body from his arm, and finally rushed into the Dragon Ball world in his chest. Yang Tian felt an intense pain as the enormous energy passed through his body. Yang Tian gritted his teeth, opened his eyes wide and held on. It turned out that in Yang Tian's Dragon Ball world, the Dragon Ball was a small dot, and a 9-colored ring surrounded this small dot. When a large amount of black dragon inner core energy was absorbed by it, this small dot became brighter and brighter, and also bigger and bigger. Rumble! After an unknown amount of time, Yang Tian's Dragon Ball world roared and began to tremble violently. In Yang Tian's inner vision, the Dragon Ball world actually began to collapse. The powerful Dragon Ball energy was no longer restrained and dissipated into nothingness. What's going on? This situation made Yang Tian panic a little. With the Dragon Ball world shattered, it definitely couldn't contain the Dragon Ball energy anymore. Moreover, the chaotic Dragon Ball energy would also cause harm to his body. Yang Tian, who was fluctuating with his thoughts, couldn't control the mental power he released. A large number of devouring worms broke through the obstruction of his mental power and came into contact with his body. These devouring worms, which were not much bigger than human cells, began to gnaw on Yang Tian's body. Because the devouring worms secrete neurotoxins, Yang Tian, who had all his attention on the Dragon Ball world, didn't notice that his body was being gnawed. What to do? Yang Tian quickly thought. That's right. Mental power. As soon as he thought of mental power, Yang Tian immediately took action. He began to mobilize his mental power and rushed into the Dragon Ball world to repair the Dragon Ball world that was about to be broken by the Dragon Ball energy. The reason why the Dragon Ball world shattered was probably related to the energy of the Black Dragon inner core. Although the Black Dragon didn't defeat the Little Blue Dragon when it was at its peak, its realm was definitely much higher than the Little Blue Dragon. In other words, the energy of its inner core was extremely pure, and was of higher quality than Yang Tian's original Dragon Ball energy. Once this kind of energy poured into Yang Tian's Dragon Ball world, it wouldn't be controlled by Yang Tian's thought. Before swallowing the Black Dragon inner core, Yang Tian had already considered this situation, but he didn't expect it to become so serious. With the addition of a large amount of mental power, the speed of the Dragon Ball world's collapse finally slowed down. This still didn't work. Yang Tian quickly realized that his Dragon Ball world couldn't accommodate too much Dragon Ball energy. At the same time, he also realized that it wasn't so easy to upgrade from the planet grade to the star grade. It wasn't just about energy replenishment. So, what should he do next? Yang Tian once again quickly thought about how to let the Dragon Ball world's surging Dragon Ball energy vent out a part of it. In fact, before this situation appeared, he already had a faint idea. Fusion of 3 powers. Yang Tian no longer hesitated and turned his thoughts to his body. At this time, Yang Tian finally noticed the changes in his body. Only a few seconds had passed since the accident occurred in Yang Tian's Dragon Ball world. And in these few seconds, Yang Tian's whole body was gnawed away by the devouring bugs. Not only the skin cells and hair, but even the blood cells that flowed out were eaten by the devouring bug. People who were eaten by the devouring bugs didn't bleed. It was like ice melting in water, and one couldn't see where the body disappeared to. Realizing this situation, Yang Tian didn't have any other way. He couldn't care so much for the time being. With a thought, a large amount of bloodline power appeared in all the cells in his body. Just like Yang Tian's experiment on the spaceship before, the fusion of 3 powers spread rapidly to the cells in his body. This speed was the transmission speed of the nerves. Almost in an instant, Yang Tian's body had a huge amount of strange power from the fusion of 3 powers. In this short process, a large amount of mental power and Dragon Ball energy were naturally consumed. As soon as this power formed in Yang Tian's body, it produced an incredible ability. Under the stimulation of this strange ability, the cells in the damaged parts of his body split rapidly. Not only that, but his powerful body cells also started to devour the devouring bugs and counter-devour them. The wounds on Yang Tian's body caused by the devouring bugs quickly healed. At this time, Yang Tian suddenly fell into a state of coma. Chapter 309. Yang Tian began to have a dream that he hadn't had in a long time. He once again dreamed that he had transformed into a dragon and was roaming the vast world. This time, the dream was more realistic and clear than the one he had on the ball. Last time, Yang Tian learned Draconic in his dream, as well as some basic survival skills of the dragon race. This time, Yang Tian learned transformation. That's right, transformation. Although it was only a dream, his nervous system was still connected to his body. Under the influence of the dream, the cells in his body began to change after receiving the consciousness information in the dream. On the surface of Yang Tian's body, cyan dragon flames similar to the little blue dragons appeared, exterminating countless devouring bugs. The surrounding devouring bugs automatically moved away from Yang Tian, making a large space for Yang Tian's body to continuously fall down. Finally, he fell to the bottom of the cave about 50 meters deep. In other words, this cave was actually very large, but the space was so small because of the large number of devouring bugs living in it. After falling to the bottom of the cave, Yang Tian's body began to rapidly grow dragon scales. His legs and hands turned into dragon claws, and his back grew a dragon spine and a dragon tail. If he kept changing like this, perhaps in the end, Yang Tian would become the same as the little blue dragon, a dragon. During this process, the surface of Yang Tian's body was still burning with cyan dragon flames. But midway, Yang Tian woke up. That was because Yang Tian was still worried about the little blue dragon and Soli, who were fighting with Gua. Soli was Yang Tian's life and death teammate. Yang Tian didn't want her to be hurt, and the little blue dragon was no different from his family. He didn't want the little blue dragon to be hurt. As Yang Tian woke up, his body began to change again. The dragon scales on his body no longer fell, but quickly disappeared, as did the dragon horns on his head. This was because the cells in his body had evolved to a new level. They could directly consume other substances to replenish their energy. Furthermore, as Yang Tian regained consciousness, the dragon flames on the surface of his body gradually extinguished. Without the threat of the dragon flames, countless devouring bugs swarmed toward Yang Tian again. Yang Tian's body had a strange energy flowing through it. His cells were terrifyingly strong. The devouring insects that came into contact with his body were devoured by his cells before they could even attack. The speed of its devouring was also extremely frightening. If one were to look at this situation with a microscope, they would discover that every cell in Yang Tian's body had grown countless tiny fleshy tentacles. These fleshy tentacles wrapped around a devouring worm and pulled it into the cells. In an instant, the devouring worm was digested, turned into energy, and sent to the other cells in the body. Such a powerful devouring ability was something that even Gua's cells could not compare to. After waking up, Yang Tian did not pay attention to his body. Instead, he turned his attention to the inside of his body. First, the Dragon Ball world. The Dragon Ball world had already regained its calm. Unknowingly, a change had actually occurred. The glowing little dot in the Dragon Ball world had already turned into an oval-shaped cyan sphere. It looked like an egg. There was also a halo of 9 colors surrounding this egg. Yang Tian did not understand this change, but seeing that the Dragon Ball world still existed and appeared very calm, he was relieved. He turned his attention to the spiritual world. There were not many changes in the spiritual world. It was just that the number of dragons formed by the spiritual force had decreased by a lot. This was due to the large amount of spiritual force that was consumed before. Next, Yang Tian noticed the strange energy that densely covered his body. This energy was the energy produced by the combination of the power of the Dragon Ball, spiritual force, and bloodline energy. At this time, the strange energy was very abundant in Yang Tian's body, making Yang Tian feel incomparably powerful. At the same time, this energy also gave him a desire to destroy and devour. Roar! At this moment, the little blue dragon's roar came from above his head. Yang Tian immediately withdrew from the state of inner vision and narrowed his eyes slightly. With a thought, scales began to rapidly grow on Yang Tian's body. At the same time, a pair of forked dragon horns also grew on his head. This transformation process was completed in just a few seconds. Pung! With a soft sound, Yang Tian bounced up. From the time Yang Tian jumped into the blue liquid made of countless devouring bugs until now, it seemed like a very long process. In fact, it was less than 5 minutes. At this time, Yang Tian did not realize that after possessing the spiritual force would help him save a lot of time in the process of the transformation of his body. Although it was only a short 5 minutes, Soli had experienced at least a dozen life and death crises. The black armor on her body had been removed, revealing her graceful body in white tight. Her body was stained with blood, especially on her shoulder, where a large piece of flesh had fallen off. This was because her shoulder was stained with devouring bugs during the battle, and she had to cut off her skin and flesh. Once a small number of devouring bugs stuck to the body, not only would they gnaw on the flesh, but they would also rapidly split if there were a small number of them. In order to protect Soli, the little blue dragon also suffered heavy injuries. At this time, its aura was very weak, and it probably could not last more than 5 minutes. During this time, Guo had been frowning. He did not believe that Yang Tian would jump into the blue liquid to commit suicide. Then, there must be another purpose. Pung! Guo's figure flashed and suddenly appeared in front of Saul. Without any mercy, he slapped Saul's chest. After being hit hard, Soli's body flew up again, and at the same time, she spat out a mouthful of blood. Just like before, the little blue dragon quickly rushed towards Soli and could not let her fall into the blue liquid. Seeing this, Guo sneered. He knew that as long as he attacked again, he could kill Soli and severely injure the little blue dragon. Guo's movements were almost at the same time as his thoughts. His body moved, and he arrived above Soli before the little blue dragon. Soli looked at Guo, her eyes full of despair. Guo ignored the little blue dragon and slapped at Soli. Soli had suffered heavy internal injuries at this time. If she was hit again, she would die. At this moment, looking at the palm that was getting bigger and bigger in front of her, Soli closed her eyes. Puff! But at this moment, Guo's vision blurred, and he suddenly lost sight of Soli. 2 different sounds appeared in his ears. Boom! Guo, who did not have time to retract his palm, slapped the blue liquid below him, splashing a large number of blue liquid droplets. Guo's figure was enveloped by these blue liquid droplets. At this time, Yang Tian had already landed on a black stone protruding from the blue liquid with Soli in his arms. When the blue liquid droplets fell in front of him, Guo saw Yang Tian in his transformed state. At this time, Yang Tian was half human, half beast in his eyes, like a monster. Except for the face that looked like a human, everything else looked like Yang Tian's pet beast. Chapter 310. What surprised Guo was not Yang Tian's current appearance, but the aura emanating from Yang Tian's body. The current Yang Tian made him feel extreme danger. Only an enemy who was stronger than Gu Ao could make him feel threatened. Yang Tian glanced at Guo, then turned to Soli and asked plainly, "Are you all right?" Soli was severely injured. Seeing Yang Tian's concerned eyes, she felt warmth in her heart. She gritted her teeth and nodded. Whoosh! With a gust of wind, the little blue dragon quickly swam over. With the little blue dragon protecting Soli, Yang Tian no longer had to worry about Soli. He gently put her down. Soli held onto Yang Tian's hand and squatted on the black rock. The little blue dragon coiled on the black rock, shielding Soli from the blue liquid. "Gua, you will die." Yang Tian looked at the wounded little blue dragon and became angry. He turned to Gua and said coldly. Yang Tian did not like to talk nonsense with people. Before he finished his words, he moved and rushed toward Gua. Yang Tian's current realm was already at the stellar warrior level, but his combat power was equivalent to a stellar warlord. In Gu Ao's eyes, Yang Tian's figure flashed and appeared in front of him. Greatly alarmed, Gua quickly retreated. From an ordinary human to a stellar warrior, Gua had experienced many battles. He could not even remember how many times he had fought. And this time, it was the most dangerous and the strangest time Gua had ever encountered. Facing Yang Tian, who had suddenly become stronger, Gua chose to retreat. Gua was fast, but the current Yang Tian was even faster than him. As soon as Gua left the black rock, Yang Tian approached him again. Yang Tian raised his hand that had turned into a dragon claw and slapped Gua's head. The strange energy inside Yang Tian's body gushed out from Yang Tian's dragon claw like a flood breaking through a dam, gushing into Gua's head. In that instant, Gua shifted his consciousness to other parts of his body. As long as his consciousness existed, with his star-state body, he could regenerate as long as a few cells survived. However, this would only happen if the body was injured and there was no interference. In the face of the powerful Yang Tian, Gua could only hope that Yang Tian didn't understand the physical characteristics of a star-grade martialist and that he would have a chance to survive. But what he didn't know was that Yang Tian had seen such a battle before. The strange energy released by Yang Tian instantly destroyed Gua's head. During this process, Yang Tian hadn't expected that after his strange energy entered Gua's body, it would quickly seep into Gua's body and destroy his cells. The destroyed cells had already lost the ability to divide and reproduce, and had become dead cells. At the same time, the speed of the energy transfer in Gua's body was extremely fast. While Gua's consciousness was hiding, Yang Tian's energy had already spread throughout his body and seeped into all his cells. Gua's consciousness, which had lost the support of his cells, dissipated like a rootless energy. Boom! Yang Tian pressed Gua's head down and smashed it into the blue liquid. At that moment, the devouring aura emitted from Yang Tian's body terrified countless engulfing bugs. They all moved aside, leaving a lot of space for Yang Tian. Yang Tian brought Gua's body down to the bottom of the cave. Gua's dead body still had a large amount of energy in his cells, but it was quickly assimilated by Yang Tian's strange energy. It was transformed into a strange energy and quickly returned to Yang Tian's body. When Yang Tian let go of Gua's head, Gua's body fell to the ground. When it hit the ground, it immediately dispersed and turned into a sticky liquid. Yang Tian looked at the gray, lifeless liquid. He then raised his hand and looked at his palm. In the process of killing Gua, he noticed that the strange energy in his body had grown stronger. This was clearly because he had absorbed Gua's energy. Destruction and devouring. That was the terror of this strange energy. Not to mention, the speed of destruction and devouring was simply too fast. It had only taken a few blinks of an eye. Yang Tian couldn't help but recall that when he used this strange energy during the Academy's exam, he was stopped by the Shenwu professor. It seemed that the Shenwu professor also felt the destructive power of this energy. I should use this energy less in the future, unless it's a critical moment. If others knew, they would definitely be afraid. Yang Tian thought. This energy would not only make Yang Tian's opponents feel afraid, but it would also frighten him. After being dazed for a while, Yang Tian jumped up and landed in front of Soli. Soli didn't need to ask to know that Yang Tian had already killed Gua. This was because Gua's life force had already disappeared. Looking at Soli, Yang Tian said calmly, I devoured the energy of the black dragon's inner core and reached the star level. Also, I used that energy. Seeing the worried expression in Yang Tian's eyes, Soli understood Yang Tian's current state of mind. She smiled and said, You have such a powerful energy, what are you worried about? Are you worried that people will find out and attack you? Or are you afraid that people will stay away from you? Yang Tian didn't answer Soli. Soli struggled to stand up from the ground and smiled. If I had your energy, I would want to let everyone know. That way, people who want to be my enemy would be afraid of me. Yang Tian smiled at Soli's words. Yes. With a powerful weapon, he had to display it, just like the atomic bomb on Earth. Just deterrence alone could obtain diplomatic benefit. Of course, Yang Tian also knew that Soli must have underestimated his strange energy. Seeing Yang Tian nod, Soli asked, What's the name of your energy? Yes. Dragon Ball power, mental energy, bloodline power, aura power. These energies all had names. What was the name of this strange energy? Tian thought for a moment and said to Soli, It's called Origin Force. Origin Force? What a strange name. Soli murmured and nodded. At this time, Yang Tian and the others still didn't know that Absolute Beginning Star's group was waiting outside the cave. Absolute Beginning Star had great faith in Gua's abilities. He believed that as long as Gua acted, Yang Tian and Soli would only die. However, less than half an hour after Gua left, Absolute Beginning Star was shocked to find that his communication device had lost Gua's life signal. There were only two possibilities. One possibility was that Gu Ao had gone to a special place and lost contact with him for a short period of time. The other possibility was that Gu Ao had died. Absolute Beginning Star wasn't worried after seeing the signal disappear. He believed that it was just that the structure of the cave ahead was special and he had temporarily lost contact with Gua. In the Absolute Beginning family, every member had this kind of life signal communication device. It was directly implanted into the body. Through this device, one could know whether a family member was alive or dead. Although it was just a guess, Absolute Beginning Star was still a bit unhappy about losing contact with Gua for a short time. He felt that something was wrong. Chapter 3:11. The power Yang Tian named Origin Power was hidden deep in his cells and had the characteristics of bloodline power. After the battle ended, the Origin Power aura on Yang Tian's body slowly disappeared. You're injured. Do you want to go back first? You can come back after you've recovered. Yang Tian relaxed and let out a long sigh before looking at Soli and asking. Soli shook her head. I'm fine. It's just a small injury. I'll be fine soon. Let's keep going. Soli's voice trembled as she spoke, as if she was in pain. What a strong woman. Yang Tian praised inwardly. Then, after some consideration, he nodded. The little blue dragon was injured and consumed a lot of energy. At this moment, it had transformed back into a mini little blue dragon. It landed on Yang Tian's shoulder and closed its eyes to rest. With a thought from Yang Tian, the green scales on his body slowly disappeared just like before. During this process, Yang Tian took out the clothes he had prepared in advance from his storage bracelet and put them on at an extremely fast speed. Soli's body was covered in blood. Her black armor had been destroyed. She took out the loose white robe she wore in the academy and put it on. After a short rest, Yang Tian hugged Soli's waist and continued forward. At this time, Yang Tian, who had reached the Star Warrior rank, was running at least 1/3 faster than before. After another half an hour, they finally reached the end of the cave. What surprised Yang Tian and Soli was that there was no exit at the end of the cave. It looked like a dead end. Had they been fooled? Yang Tian and Sol looked at each other in dismay. It was not impossible. It wasn't as if such things didn't happen in the universe. Many of the Academy's training programs had such situations. Since they were already here, Yang Tian and Soli naturally would not give up immediately. Next, the two carefully looked at the end of the cave to see if there were any trap. 10 minutes later, Soli, who was searching along the wall, suddenly saw a beast head protruding out of the wall. It was carved out of black stone. If one didn't look carefully, they wouldn't have noticed it. Yang Tian, look. What is this? Soli immediately turned around and asked Yang Tian, who was not far away after discovering the beast head. Yang Tian flashed over and looked in the direction Soli was pointing. He saw an unknown beast's head that was carved out of black stone protruding out of the rock wall. The two eyes on the beast's head looked particularly prominent. Obviously, this must be the mechanism that activated it. Yang Tian and Soli exchanged glances. Soli shook her soft whip and hit the beast's head. There was no reaction. Then, it must be in the protruding eyeball. Soli lashed out with her whip and hit one of the eyeballs. There was still no reaction. During this process, Yang Tian discovered that the eyeball hit by Soli's soft whip was actually moving. In other words, these two eyeballs were the buttons of the mechanism. Soli put away her soft whip, took a few deep breaths, and lashed out again. The two soft whips attacked at the same time and hit the two eyeballs almost at the same time. The two eyeballs suddenly sunk in. At the same time, the entire cave began to shake as if there was an earthquake. A large number of black stones fell from the ceiling. The black stones fell densely into the blue liquid, splashing up a large number of blue liquid droplets. During this process, the two clearly felt that the temperature in the cave began to rapidly rise. Soon, the temperature reached 100 degrees Celsius. Ordinary people would be roasted at such a high temperature. At this time, the cave no longer shook. It was still, and the temperature did not rise. Soon, something that Yang Tian and the rest did not expect happened. In a situation where there was no airflow disturbance, the blue liquid in the cave began to churn. It was like the surface of water that moved without wind, creating messy ripples. The blue liquid formed by countless devouring bugs had abnormal activities. Soli immediately took out a detector and tested the blue liquid. The test results came out quickly. Countless devouring bugs went crazy under the high temperature and began to devour each other. During this process, the blue liquid level dropped at an extremely fast speed. After devouring their own kind, the devouring bugs' bodies were rapidly growing. Yang Tian and Soli had activated the mechanism in the cave. What they would face next were huge devouring bugs. This was unavoidable unless Yang Tian and Soli left immediately and returned the way they came. Of course, this was impossible. They had come here with great difficulty, so how could they return without any results? In the process of training, there were often benefits after a crisis. At this time, the little blue dragon also opened its eyes and looked at the blue liquid curiously. The blue liquid formed by countless devouring bugs was constantly decreasing. It looked like it had crystallized and turned into flowing blue particles. These blue particles were the devouring bugs that had grown larger. After a few minutes, more than half of the space in the cave was empty. At the bottom of the cave, there were devouring bugs the size of a finger that kept crawling. These devouring bugs were densely packed together and kept moving. Just looking at them would make one's whole body itch. After becoming so big, these devouring bugs still did not stop devouring each other. After eating one of their own, their bodies would become at least 30% larger. Almost every minute, their bodies would double their original size. This kind of growth speed was really too terrifying. About 10 minutes later, the cave was full of devouring bugs that were 3 meters long. These devouring bugs had become countless times larger than before. They kept crawling in the cave as if they were extremely hungry. They were extremely violent and would devour each other when they encountered their own kind. Otherwise, they would gnaw on black stones. For a moment, the entire cave was filled with dense caw-caw sounds. At this time, the air in the cave suddenly started flowing. Yang Tian and Soli, who were close to the stone wall, emitted scents that drifted in the cave along with the flow of air. This smell immediately attracted the attention of countless devouring bugs. After determining Yang Tian's position, a large number of devouring bugs crawled towards Yang Tian's group. At this time, it wasn't just Yang Tian's group. At the entrance of the cave, Absolute Beginning Star's group also encountered the same situation. When these people saw a large number of devouring bugs crawling towards them, they immediately turned and fled. Seeing the large number of devouring bugs crawling over, Yang Tian immediately took out a red saber from his storage bracelet and waved it towards the devouring bugs. Red wind blades shot out from the saber and rushed towards the devouring bugs crawling over. Soli clenched her teeth and waved her whips, forming dense whip shadows that slapped towards the bugs. In the cave, dense puff-puff sounds were immediately heard. A large number of devouring bugs were killed by Yang Tian and Soli. After these devouring bugs died, they were immediately devoured by their companions. After devouring the corpses of their own kind, the devouring bugs grew even larger. Rumble, at this time, the wall behind Yang Tian's group trembled, revealing a 3-meter-long cave. There were too many devouring bugs. They couldn't kill them all no matter how hard they tried. This cave appeared at the right time. Yang Tian and Soli looked at each other and immediately rushed into the cave that suddenly appeared. Chapter 312. Screech. As soon as Yang Tian and Soli entered the cave and ran less than 50 meters, a blue beam as thick as a finger suddenly lit up at the top of the cave and shot toward Yang Tian. Yang Tian was unable to dodge in time, and a fist-sized black hole immediately appeared on his shoulder where he was hit. Under the intense pain, Yang Tian kicked his legs and shot backwards. He casually pulled Soli to the ground, and the two of them rolled to avoid the attack. Chi. Almost at the same time, dense beams of light shot down from the top of the cave. Crystallized holes immediately appeared on the rocks at the bottom of the cave. Fortunately, Yang Tian reacted fast enough. With a thought, his mental power covered the surface of his body, protecting him and Soli. Yang Tian's mental power was consumed at an extremely fast rate under the constant bombardment of these blue beams. Fortunately, just as Yang Tian was about to give up, the two of them finally rolled out of the hole and appeared at the entrance of the cave. In just a few seconds, Yang Tian and Soli felt as though they had just taken a trip to the gates of hell. Phew! Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief and let go of Soli before looking at the cave behind him. At this moment, the cave with a diameter of about 3 meters was constantly flashing with blue beams. These beams were very dense and were all shot from the top of the cave. Combined together, they formed a blue light net. What is this? Yang Tian frowned. Soli said, "This is a superparticle beam. I didn't expect the Dark Star King to use a technological weapon here. This weapon can only attack the enemy by surprise. Once it fails, it's useless." Yang Tian looked down at his shoulder. The wound caused by the superparticle beam was very itchy. The cells at the wound were dividing at an extremely fast speed and healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Soli was not surprised to see Yang Tian's wound healing so quickly. As a star state, Yang Tian would not die even if there was a big hole in his head. At this moment, a large number of devouring bugs swarmed toward Yang Tian and the others again. "Xiao Long, destroy those things," Yang Tian gritted his teeth and said. "Squeak, squeak," the little azure dragon cried out and shot out from Yang Tian's shoulder. It turned into a green shadow and charged into the cave that Yang Tian and the rest had just entered. The little blue dragon's body was small and fast. It jumped along the top of the cave wall and moved forward quickly. The thing that shot the blue beams was a kind of emitter embedded in the cave wall. The little blue dragon destroyed one with a claw. Puff, puff, puff in the cave, dense puffing sounds could be heard. The emitters that densely covered the top of the cave were destroyed by the little blue dragon one by one. Yang Tian and Soli did not care about the devouring bugs that crawled over. Most of these bugs were more than 3 meters long, and their oval heads had become very large. It seemed that they could not enter the cave that was only 3 meters in diameter. After entering the cave again, Yang Tian and Soli followed behind the little blue dragon and moved forward quickly. Soli was right. Once these high-tech weapons were exposed, they would basically lose their effect. The mechanism designed by the Dark Star King was very ingenious. It took advantage of the fear of humans. Just imagine, when people entered this place and faced a large number of devouring bugs that had begun to transform, even a star state would panic and be eager to leave this place. When the cave that was densely covered with emitters opened, they would definitely enter the cave immediately. There was simply no room to dodge in the narrow space of the cave. If one's body was seriously damaged, even a star-grade powerhouse would have no choice but to die. Unless, of course, he could predict that such a situation would occur. When Yang Tian and Soli entered the small cave and began to move forward, Tai Chu Star and the others returned to the entrance of the large cave. On their way back, there were corpses of devouring bugs everywhere. There are too many bugs in here. It's very dangerous for us to pass through. A black-armored guard next to Tai Chu Star said, as he looked at the devouring bugs that kept crawling and growing in size. Until now, there was still no sign of Gua's life. Clearly, Gua was very likely dead. As for whether he died at the hands of Yang Tian and Soli or in the mouth of these devouring bugs, Tai Chu Star and the others still did not know. After frowning and looking at the situation in the cave, Tai Chu Star said to the 5 black-armored guards next to him, "Your state is the same as Gua's, but your combat power is slightly weaker. It shouldn't be a problem for you to lead the way, right?" The 5 black-armored guards nodded. With the absolute beginning star saying this, it was very clear that he was going to pass through here. "It's too dangerous, let's go back," the slightly plump Zhu Liang said with a frown. Clearly, the further they went, the more dangerous it was. Even the star state Gua died Ali Fei, who was standing beside Zhu Liangshi, looked at Zhu Liangshi with a sneer. "If you are afraid, you can go back. No one's stopping you. But, if the news gets out, you know the consequences." Zhu Liang looked at Tai Chu Star and saw that Tai Chu Star's expression wasn't good. He shrunk his neck and could only brace himself. What's there to be scared of? Tai Chu Star ignored the two and waved his hand. The 5 black-armored guards immediately took out their weapons from their storage bracelet. The weapons in their hands were actually high-tech firearms. In such a situation, using cold weapons to kill the devouring bugs in front of them was too inefficient. It was better to use these high-tech weapons. The weapons in their hands were called super energy particle guns. They could shoot out super energy particles. When the particles came into contact with dense matter, they would decompose the matter. The particles shot out by these guns were similar to the blue beam that Yang Tian and the others encountered. The 5 black-armored guards took out their particle guns and ran forward at the same time. Chi from the muzzles of the 5 people, faint red beams of light constantly shot out. Their reaction speed was extremely fast, and their shots were also very accurate. Almost every shot was able to hit the devouring insect's head. This kind of weapon was a good choice in this kind of situation, but in a battle with an expert of the same level, it was equivalent to holding a pile of scrap metal. This was because when using a gun, one had to point the muzzle at the opponent and press the switch. This process was not as fast as swinging a knife. While moving forward, Absolute Beginning Star also took out the same weapon from his storage bracelet. The group quickly moved forward within the cave, chasing after Yang Tian's group. With the little blue dragon leading the way, Yang Tian and Soli moved forward very smoothly. After a few minutes, they walked out of the cave that was only 3 meters in diameter. The cave was slanted upwards. When Yang Tian and the others came out of the cave, their vision immediately widened. What appeared in their eyes was a dazzling blue. The blue light came from the top of the mountain dozens of kilometers in front of them. Soli and Yang Tian took out binoculars from their storage bracelets at the same time and looked in front of them. Then, their eyes widened. Because what emitted the blue light was actually stellar crystals. It was a huge palace-like building built with a large amount of stellar crystals. Chapter 3:13. We should be on a planet now. After putting down the binoculars, Yang Tian suppressed his excitement and looked at the palace in the distance that was obviously made of star crystal. Soli glanced around and nodded. Yang Tian was right. They had actually come to an unfamiliar planet, and the 2 checkpoints they had just passed were built underground. This planet shouldn't be big. At a glance, they could see the curvature of the ground. In the sky, there was a star the size of a disk. This star had probably entered the aging stage. The light it emitted wasn't very bright, with a faint red color. Perhaps it wouldn't be long before this star became a white dwarf. The temperature on the ground was about 15 degrees Celsius, which was a very comfortable temperature for humans. On this planet, there were also light green plants growing all over. From where Yang Tian and the others were standing to the palace made of star crystal, there was a dense forest. After Yang Tian put down the binoculars, he turned his head and looked at the little blue dragon on his shoulder and said with a smile, "Xiaolong, it's up to you now." The little blue dragon understood Yang Tian's meaning and immediately flew into the air and transformed into a giant dragon. After Yang Tian and Soli sat on the little blue dragon's back, the little blue dragon immediately flew toward the palace made of star crystal. The little blue dragon was very fast. It flew a distance of more than 10 miles in a few minutes. This was a tall mountain. From the bottom of the mountain to the top, it was about 1,000 meters high. The top of the mountain had been shaved off, forming a circular platform about 1,000 meters in diameter. The palace built by the stars was located in this palace. The little blue dragon landed at the entrance of the palace. The style of this palace looked similar to the Christian church built by humans on Earth. It took up a third of the area of the mountain top. After getting down from the little blue dragon, Yang Tian and Soli looked at each other and quickly walked to the entrance of the palace. The door was open and it was pitch black inside. Nothing could be seen. Yang Tian touched a pillar that was 1 meter in diameter by the door. With a thought, a wisp of mind power that took the form of a dragon rushed out of his mind and wrapped around the blue pillar. It was indeed stellar crystal. Using his mental power, Yang Tian clearly sensed the pure energy that the star crystal contained. The Dark Star King was too rich when he was alive. He had actually used star crystals to build such a huge palace. Moreover, he had placed it in such a conspicuous location. Was this a way to show off? Yang Tian thought. However, he faintly felt that things were not as simple as they seemed on the surface. If such a huge palace was dismantled and replaced with standard star crystals, it would probably be worth several 100 million. Crack! At this moment, a crisp sound was heard. Yang Tian turned around and saw Soli digging out a star crystal from the pillar. Star crystals were even more brittle than ordinary rock. Soli raised her hand, and a piece of star crystal was lying on her hand. Soon, this piece of star crystal melted like a piece of grease in heat, turning into a blue liquid shape. Suddenly, Soli frowned and flung away the star crystal in her hand. "What's wrong?" Yang Tian was puzzled. "There's something wrong with this star crystal. If I used bloodline power, it would be troublesome," Soli said as she turned around and looked at the palace built with star crystals. She continued, "These star crystals contain the energy of the Dark Star King." The energy of the Dark Star King. Wasn't the Dark Star King already dead? Yang Tian was puzzled. He also took out a piece of star crystal. With a thought, the Dragon Ball power in his body wrapped around the star crystal in his hand. Sure enough, as Soli said, there was a strange energy hidden in this star crystal. This energy was like a black thread in Yang Tian's perception. As soon as it entered Yang Tian's body, it moved freely, like a thug who broke into someone's house. This thug was also very cunning. Yang Tian wanted to control it with his mind, but it immediately avoided him. As it moved through Yang Tian's body, this energy also caused the surface of Yang Tian's cells to mutate. Like a virus, every time it infected a cell, it would absorb a trace of energy from the cell, making itself stronger. Yang Tian, who was interested in this energy, used a trace of ordinary bloodline power to approach it, but he didn't expect it to be devoured immediately. After devouring Yang Tian's bloodline power, this energy also became stronger. No wonder Soli said that if she had bloodline power, it would be troublesome. After having enough fun, Yang Tian moved his mind, and a large amount of mental force rushed out from his mental force world and shrouded this dark energy. This dark energy seemed to have a consciousness and immediately escape. In the process, it suddenly turned into countless parts and broke into Yang Tian's cells. Not only that, but as soon as it entered Yang Tian's cells, it wanted to drill into the cell nucleus. This situation was not expected by Yang Tian. Phew, Yang Tian heaved a sigh of relief before he turned around and looked at the huge palace built using star crystals. Soli said, "The Dark Star King is indeed powerful. He was only a star state, but he was able to create such an eerie power. No wonder he escaped several times when the Superstar Divinity Temple wanted to kill him. However, your origin force is even more powerful. How did you create it?" From Soli's tone, it sounded like she was asking, but in fact, she was sighing. Yang Tian smiled. "It's just luck and coincidence." Soli did not ask how Yang Tian was doing after absorbing a trace of the Dark Star King's energy. Yang Tian did not need to say anything. She already knew the result. With the attribute of Yang Tian's origin force, he must have devoured the Dark Star King's energy. That was indeed the case. Just now, that trace of energy turned into countless rays and wanted to enter the cell nucleus, but unexpectedly, there was a tiger inside. As soon as it entered, it was devoured by the origin force created by Yang Tian, leaving nothing behind. Yang Tian now knew that the Dark Star King was actually going to revive in a way that ordinary people could not imagine. A person's consciousness was actually a type of energy. The Dark Astral King used a special method to attach his consciousness to the energy he created. Then, he placed it on top of the palace made of star crystals. On every piece of star crystal in this palace, there was energy left behind by the Dark Star King, and the energy contained the Dark Star King's consciousness. When someone came here and absorbed a large amount of the energy of these star crystals, they would fall into his trap. This was somewhat similar to the possession that humans on Earth talked about. However, some questions also appeared in Yang Tian's mind. While Yang Tian was thinking, 5 black-armored men suddenly landed on the side. At the same time, there was a whistling sound. Genesis Star and a few intermediate students also flew a small aircraft over and landed not far behind the 5 black-armored men. Seeing this palace built with star crystal, Genesis Star and the others finally could not help but appear. Chapter 3:14. This time, Absolute Beginning Star brought a total of more than 10 guards and 5 intermediate students. The 5 guards that appeared here were the most powerful ones among the guards that he had brought. They were only slightly weaker than Gu Ao. The other 8 guards had stayed at the teleportation array to provide support. Now, including Genesis Star, there were a total of 11 people here. Seeing Genesis Star and the others arrive, Yang Tian and Soli weren't surprised, because Gua's appearance wasn't without reason. If Gua could hunt them down, there must be others. Yang Tian didn't know Genesis Star, but he glanced at the 11 people and knew who Genesis Star was. The 5 black-armored men were clearly Genesis Star's guards. Behind the guards, Genesis Star had a cold smile on his face. The other 5 students were standing behind him. Genesis Star, why are you here? This is against the rules of the Academy. When you return, you will be punished. Soli looked at the absolute beginning star with a frown and said with dissatisfaction. Genesis Star curled his lips and glanced at Yang Tian and Soli, then turned around and looked at the palace made of star crystals. He said with a smile, I didn't expect this kind of training program to have such great benefits. After you get these star crystals, you won't have to worry about cultivation resources for a long time. This has nothing to do with you. Soli waved her soft whip and sneered. With Yang Tian here, Soli had already expected the result. However, she didn't know if Yang Tian would let Genesis Star go because of the Genesis family. After all, the Genesis family was a huge family in the universe. If Yang Tian killed Genesis Star, the Genesis family would definitely take revenge. Soli also saw the 5 black armored guards. Their realms might be similar to Gua's, but their combat power was much weaker. This was just Soli's intuition. A person's combat power wasn't only shown by their realm, but also their temperament. In terms of temperament, the 5 black armored guards were far from comparable to Gua. If Yang Tian could kill Gua in an instant, then these 5 black armored guards would definitely not be a match for Yang Tian. As for Genesis Star and the 5 intermediate students behind him, although Soli was injured, she was confident in defeating them. Soli couldn't help but glance at Yang Tian and pay attention to Yang Tian's aura. At this very moment, judging from the aura on Yang Tian's body, he was about the same as those intermediate students from Genesis Star. This was the terrifying aspect of Yang Tian's origin power. Not only was the origin power's attribute terrifying, but it could also be hidden, making it impossible for others to see through his true combat strength. Also, the little blue dragon lying on Yang Tian's shoulder was not to be trifled with either. The little blue dragon usually maintained its mini dragon form and looked somewhat cute, making people overlook its power. After Genesis Star arrived, he immediately observed Yang Tian and Soli. He even paid attention to the little blue dragon. Soli was injured and her aura was unstable. Yang Tian was not injured, but he could not compare to the 5 guards. Any one of these 5 guards could kill Yang Tian and Soli. As for that astral beast, its eyes were cold, but it could not compare to the 5 guards. After coming to this conclusion, Genesis Star was somewhat puzzled. How did Gua die? Could it be that he really fell into the trap of the cave? Yang Tian Soli, if you leave now, this matter can still be discussed. Everyone, shut up. The slightly plump Zhu Liang sure could not bear it and suggested to Yang Tian and the rest. In his opinion, if Yang Tian and Soli left immediately, the mission would fail, and they would only lose some credit. Genesis Star, on the other hand, had obtained so many star crystals. If he was happy, he might let Yang Tian and the others go. But before he could finish his words, a cold shout interrupted him. The one who spoke was the dark-skinned Ali Fei. Ali Fei was very jealous of Yang Tian and was eager for Genesis Star to immediately order his 5 subordinates to kill Yang Tian. Seeing Ali Fei's cold and resentful eyes, Zhu Liang could only shut up. In his opinion, Genesis Star and Ali Fei were simply going crazy. As for the star crystals, Zhu Liang knew that even if Genesis Star killed Yang Tian and the others, this palace made of star crystals had nothing to do with them. Genesis Star, who was sizing up the palace, suddenly waved his hand and said to the 5 black armored guards, "Kill them!" Genesis Star said it very casually, as if killing Yang Tian and the others was as simple as stepping on an ant to him. After the 5 black armored guards rushed out of the worm-swallowing cave, they had already thrown away their almost useless particle guns. At this time, when they heard Genesis Star's order, weapons suddenly appeared in their hands. Among the 5, 3 of them used long swords, but the length and style of the swords were somewhat different. As for the other 2, one of them wore metal gloves, while the other used a silver metal disc the size of a washbasin. The disc was covered with saw teeth. After the five took out their weapons, the black-armored man holding the golden disc said indifferently, "You guys rest. I'll kill them." His tone was extremely relaxed. The other four nodded. Seeing one of the black-armored men stand out, Yang Tian didn't take out the red long sword called 15 from his storage bracelet. He just watched quietly. Suddenly, the black-armored man with the metal disc weapon moved. His figure flashed, and with a speed that ordinary people couldn't see, he rushed toward Yang Tian. There was only less than 20 meters between the two of them. It didn't even take a blink of an eye. When the black-armored man rushed toward Yang Tian, the disc in his hand suddenly flew out and quickly disintegrated into countless thin circular pieces in the air. As it spun rapidly, it covered Yang Tian. Hiss, 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 these thin circular pieces rubbed against the air in the process of flying, making a sharp friction sound that was extremely ear-piercing. In the eyes of Genesis Star and the other 5 intermediate students, Yang Tian's figure was covered by countless silver metal shadows. It looked like he was dead for sure. But cracked countless metal discs, with Yang Tian's figure as the center, once again gathered together and became a whole like before. And Yang Tian had already disappeared from where he stood. His attack missed. The black-armored man was shocked and quickly retreated. At the same time, a powerful presence suddenly appeared above his head. Yang Tian, who had appeared in the air, slapped down with his palm. An invisible palm energy was released from Yang Tian's palm. As the palm energy rapidly descended, it became larger and larger. The black-armored man, who was within the range of the palm energy, suddenly felt as if the air around him had solidified, affecting his speed. Boom! With a loud sound, the entire mountain trembled. The black-armored man, who couldn't dodge in time, was slapped into the ground by Yang Tian's palm. If it was just a physical attack, the black-armored man might not have died. But Yang Tian's palm energy was the force. Even the more powerful Gua had instantly died under Yang Tian's power, not to mention this black-armored man, whose combat power was weaker than Gua's. Before the sand and dust from the palm energy could even dissipate, Yang Tian had already landed on the ground. On the ground in front of him, there was a 1-meter-deep crater that could fit several people. The black-armored man, who had been slapped to death, was lying in the center of the crater. The black armor on his body had already shattered, and his corpse, like ice in hot water, was beginning to melt. Chapter 3:15. Seeing their comrade killed by Yang Tian in one move, the 4 black-armored men, Genesis Star, and the others were all stunned. At this moment, the aura emanating from Yang Tian's body made Genesis Star and the others feel that it was even stronger than Guadu's. Seeing the shock in Genesis Star and the others' eyes, Yang Tian smiled coldly and rushed toward the 4 black-armored men. He would kill these 4 first, and then deal with Genesis Star and the others. Yang Tian's body flashed and disappeared from where he stood. Only then did the 4 black-armored men come to their senses. The 4 of them had been through countless battles, but they had never seen a star grade being killed by an opponent in one move. Only a super-class expert could kill an eternal star realm cultivator in such a clean and efficient manner. Yang Tian was a superstar? They wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. The 4 of them seemed to have a tacit understanding as they dodged in 4 different directions. However, the speed of these 4 people was far from comparable to Yang Tian's. One of the black-armored men holding a silver-white longsword suddenly saw Yang Tian's blurry figure appear in front of him. His eyelids twitched as he thought to himself, "Not good." In his shock, he swung his longsword at the figure in front of him. However, his longsword missed as Yang Tian's figure disappeared from his sight. Pung! Then, there was a muffled sound. Yang Tian suddenly appeared behind this man and slapped him on the back. The powerful palm force directly shattered the armor on the man's back, and the origin power instantly poured into the man's body. After that slap, Yang Tian once again rushed toward his next target. From the moment Yang Tian started to kill another black-armored man, the time between this time was less than 2 seconds. Pung, pung, pung. Then, there were 3 more muffled sounds. When Yang Tian's figure stopped and appeared in front of Genesis Star and the others, the 4 black-armored men had all fallen to the ground. Without exception, these people who were hit by Yang Tian did not even have the chance to scream. After falling to the ground, their bodies began to melt. Yang Tian's origin power destroyed all the cells in their bodies. This process was very fast, almost like lightning. This was because the transmission of origin power was faster than a normal person's nervous system. Almost at the same moment the palm hit the other party, all the cells and tissues in the other party's body were destroyed. Genesis Star was very shocked that the first black-armored guard was killed by Yang Tian. Now, he was afraid. Now, it's your turn. Yang Tian looked at Absolute Beginning Star and the other 5 intermediate students with shocked faces and said coldly, You can't kill us. This is against the Academy's rules." As soon as Yang Tian's voice, a dark-skinned middle-grade student cried out. This person was Ali Fei. Ha ha ha! Before Ali Fei could finish, Yang Tian began to laugh. How laughable! When Genesis Star wanted to kill him and Soli, this person did not say such things. Now, he was mentioning the Academy's rules. Ali Fei, I told you I didn't want to come. You forced me to come. I'll strangle you. While Yang Tian was laughing, Zhu Liangshe roared and grabbed Ali Fei's neck, pushing him to the ground. Crack! Yang Tian thought that this slightly chubby young man would not be serious. Unexpectedly, the sound of a neck bone breaking was heard. Zhu Liangshe actually killed Ali Fei. Not only that, but then there was a p sound as Zhu Liangshe tore off Ali Fei's head. Blood splattered all over him. Ali Fei would not have been killed so easily by Zhu Liangshe. However, he had not expected that Zhu Liangshe would really want to kill him, so he died without knowing why. A planet-grade cultivator naturally did not have the perverted body cells of a star-grade powerhouse. Once his head left his body, he would become a corpse. I've taken my revenge. I can die in peace now. After throwing Ali Fei's head away, Zhu Liangshe wiped the blood off his face and sat down on the ground, as if waiting to be killed by Yang Tian. This sudden turn of events caused the other 4 intermediate students, including Inception Star, to be stunned. They had not expected that there would be internal strife among them before Yang Tian had even done anything to them. Leave these people to me. Suddenly, Soli's voice was heard behind Yang Tian. Before Yang Tian could agree, Soli held 2 soft whips and rushed toward Genesis Star and the others. Other than Zhu Liangshe, who was sitting on the ground waiting for his death, Genesis Star and the others immediately took out their weapons. More than 10 minutes later, other than Zhu Liangshe, who was sitting silently on the ground and clenching his fists nervously, and Genesis Star, who was injured, the other 3 middle-grade students were all killed by Soli. The battle process was very exciting in Yang Tian's eyes. Although Soli was also a middle-grade student, her battle experience and will were much stronger than the other middle-grade students. Hee. Genesis Star, who was lying on the ground while being coiled by Soli's soft whips, actually laughed coldly. At this moment, there was no fear of death in his eyes. This was because he saw the hesitation in Soli's eyes. What was there to hesitate about? It was naturally because of the Genesis family. Genesis Star naturally understood this. In his previous experience, Genesis Star had also encountered such a situation, but as long as he reported his identity, the other party would look at him with the same gaze as Soli's. As Genesis Star laughed coldly, Yang Tian walked over and appeared in Genesis Star's line of sight. If you kill me, just wait to be hunted down by the Genesis family. Genesis Star saw the cold glint in Yang Tian's eyes and continued to laugh coldly. I have the most advanced smart chip implanted in my eyes. Everything I see now has already been sent out by me. If I die, unless you hide in the school all the time, hee. Just wait to be hunted down by the Genesis family. Pern, you talk too much. Suddenly, Yang Tian lifted his foot and crushed Absolute Beginning Star's head with a stomp as he spoke. You actually dared to kill him, Soli said with a helpless smile after shaking the whip handle and putting it away. Yang Tian rubbed his foot on the ground and said, If I don't kill him, it will be more troublesome in the future. Such a person was like a venomous snake, lurking around you at all times. When you weren't paying attention, he would take a bite out of you. On our planet there's a good saying, don't be afraid of thieves stealing, but be afraid of being remembered by thieves. I'd rather face more powerful enemies in the future than be on guard at all times and be schemed against by such a person. After Yang Tian finished speaking, he turned around and walked toward Zhu Liang. When Soli killed the 3 intermediate students, Zhu Liang was very obedient, so he wasn't attacked by Soli. Seeing Yang Tian walk over, Zhu Liang became even more nervous. He thought that Yang Tian would kill him, but when Yang Tian came to his side he smiled and said, You're very smart. I won't kill you. Yang Tian remembered that when Genesis Star wanted to kill him and Soli, this person advised them to leave immediately. Hearing Yang Tian say that he wouldn't kill him, Zhu Liang raised his head and looked at Yang Tian in surprise. At this time, the stone in Zhu Liang's heart finally fell. Chapter 3:16. Hello, I'm Zhu Liang Shi. Zhu Liang Shi stood up with a silly smile and scratched his head. After putting away her twin whips, Soli walked over and looked at Zhu Liang Shi with a frown. How did you get here? This was also the answer Yang Tian wanted to know. Zhu Liang glanced at Soli. Seeing Soli's cold eyes, he couldn't help but lower his head. We came with the Absolute Beginning Star. Don't misunderstand. I came with them because I was curious. After clearing his name, Zhu Liang Shi raised his head. The training program you accepted was accepted by Genesis Star. He felt it was too risky and gave up in the end. He even lost 100,000 credit. That's how we knew you were here. So that's how it works. Hearing Zhu Liang Shi's words, Yang Tian frowned. This should be a loophole in the system. Soli nodded. This matter should be reported to the Academy. Then how does the Academy confirm that we've completed such a training program? Yang Tian asked curiously. Soli said, It's very simple. Because every time we finish a training program, the Academy will arrange for someone to evaluate it. For example, after we finish, someone will come here to inspect. This process is very fast. Even if it's far away, the evaluation can be completed within 10 days. Zhu Liang Shi waited for Soli to finish speaking before adding, If it's a special training program, someone will follow you. For example, the training program you're completing now. Even so, the trackers won't interfere with the process. Even if the students are in danger, they won't lend a hand. The stalker could be an expert among the students, or it could be a miniature AI machine. After Zhu Liang Shi finished speaking, Yang Tian felt as if someone was watching him from afar. But he knew that this was just a psychological reason. Yang Tian didn't care whether or not he was being monitored by the Academy. If you wanted to get benefits, sometimes you had to pay a price whether you were willing or not. After saying a few words, Zhu Liang Shi was no longer as nervous as before. He said to Yang Tian, You killed Genesis Star. This will definitely be troublesome. You have to finish this training as soon as possible and return to the Academy. Otherwise, at this point, Zhu Liang Shi hesitated and glanced at Yang Tian. Seeing that Yang Tian's expression did not change, he braced himself and said, Otherwise, it will be very difficult to return. The Taichu clan won't let you return to the Academy smoothly. Yang Tian understood that Zhu Liang Shi meant well by saying this. He patted Zhu Liang Shi's shoulder and said, Thanks for the reminder. The next step was to dismantle this palace made of stellar crystals and put it into his storage bracelet. With so many star crystals, Even the absolute beginning star would be envious of them. This palace looked very big, but in reality, the amount of star crystals used was not as much as it looked, because the inside of the palace was empty. Yang Tian took out a saber from his storage bracelet. Seeing Yang Tian holding the saber and facing the palace gate, taking a step back, Soli knew what Yang Tian wanted to do. She couldn't help but ask, "Aren't we going in to take a look?" Soli said that before dismantling this palace, they should go inside and take a look. Perhaps there would be better things inside. However, Yang Tian shook his head and said with a smile, "I'm definitely not interested in the things inside. Moreover, we don't have much time." "Alright." Soli nodded with some disappointment. Yang Tian understood Soli's thoughts. Just like when people on Earth saw a palace made of gold, they would think that since the house was made of gold, the furnishings inside would definitely be more valuable. Similarly, since this palace was built with star crystals, it was likely that there would be even better things inside. Perhaps there would be more powerful mechanisms. To the current Yang Tian, none of this was something he had to consider. Sometimes, people had to learn to be satisfied. If he could bring back so many star crystals this time, then this trip would not have been in vain. Yang Tian left the palace with the saber in hand. Soli and Zhu Liangshi also left quickly. Yang Tian only stopped when he was about 100 meters away from the palace gate and at the edge of the mountain peak. Ever since he obtained the force, Yang Tian had not tried to infuse the force into the strange red saber in his hand before using it. Moreover, he didn't know how destructive a single attack would be if he used all of his available origin power. Now was the time to test it out. Yang Tian's thoughts moved, and the origin power he had just restrained erupted from his body once more. Under the control of his thoughts, origin power flowed endlessly into the saber in his hand. Back on Legu Planet, this saber called 15 was the biggest contributor to Yang Tian's survival. But at the same time, after absorbing a large amount of energy, it became somewhat unruly. When he poured origin power into the saber, Yang Tian was somewhat apprehensive because he was worried that the origin power would destroy the saber. Because no matter how good the material was, it couldn't contain all types of energy. Buzz buzz buzz. What made Yang Tian happy was that his worries were unnecessary. After absorbing a large amount of origin power, the saber began to tremble slightly. At this time, Yang Tian closed his eyes. The red space within the saber once again appeared in Yang Tian's mind. The origin power in this red space was like a nebula spiraling and spinning at high speed. And the energy that originally existed in this space was repelled by the origin power. Rumble, the domineering origin power gave Yang Tian a heavy feeling. When Yang Tian was observing this ball of energy, it was as if he could hear the sound it made as it revolved. Perhaps this was just an illusion. Boom. Suddenly, Yang Tian opened his eyes and quickly rushed into the sky. Whoosh! When he was about 200 meters above the ground and looking down at the palace, Yang Tian held the saber with both hands and slashed at the palace below. A gigantic red wind blade slashed out from the saber's body. Under the control of Yang Tian's mind power, the gigantic red wind blade suddenly split into countless pieces and enveloped the palace. Boom! There was a violent explosion. This gigantic palace made of stellar crystals was shattered by Yang Tian's saber. The gigantic pieces of stellar crystals flew everywhere, and many of them fell down from the mountain peak. Yang Tian, who was in the air, felt his heart bleeding when he saw this. He had used too much strength. Whoosh! Just as Yang Tian was regretting, there was a sharp sound. A black light suddenly rushed out from the stellar crystals below and headed straight for Yang Tian in the air. The black light was very fast, but Yang Tian's reaction was even faster. When he noticed the black light, he slashed at it. Boom! Yang Tian's red wind blade clashed with the black light, and there was a violent explosion. The shockwave from the explosion blew Yang Tian away from the mountain peak. What was this energy? Yang Tian frowned and stared at the stellar crystals that were as big as a small mountain, guarding against the appearance of the black light. Chapter 317. After the shockwave from the explosion passed, Yang Tian flipped a few times and landed on the ground. Squeak, squeak. At this moment, the little blue dragon cried out. It told Yang Tian that there was a strange aura in the pile of crystals. A strange aura. Yang Tian immediately frowned because he didn't feel it. Even so, Yang Tian believed in the little blue dragon's senses. The little blue dragon's senses were much more sensitive than Yang Tian's. The little blue dragon could sense it, but he didn't. Yang Tian understood that it was because the strange aura was hidden very deeply. Haha! I'm rich! I'm rich! At this moment, Zhu Liangshi laughed loudly and shouted excitedly. Previously, the stellar crystal was a palace. It looked more like a building. But now, after being destroyed by Yang Tian's blade, it turned into a huge pile of stellar crystals. Stellar crystals piled up like a mountain. The excited Zhu Liangshi didn't consider that these stellar crystals didn't belong to him at all. Just now, Yang Tian's slash caused a huge commotion. He didn't feel it in the air, but Soli and Zhu Liangshi, who were on the ground, felt their ears buzzing from the explosion. They felt the world shake, and their eyes were filled with falling pieces of stellar crystals. During this process, Zhu Liangshi didn't even notice the black light that flew out from the stellar crystals. Yang Tian even slashed and caused a huge explosion. Zhu Liangshi didn't notice it, but Soli knew. After Yang Tian landed on the ground, she immediately walked over and looked at Yang Tian with a puzzled expression. What happened just now? Yang Tian said with a serious expression, "There's something dangerous inside. It's hidden very deeply." Their conversation was heard by the excited Zhu Liangshi. He immediately calmed down and flashed in front of Yang Tian and Soli. This guy seemed to be a little timid. The little blue dragon looked at Zhuliang City with disdain. The little blue dragon seemed to hate Zhuliang City. Yang Tian and Soli looked at the large pile of stellar crystals in front of them and waited quietly. A few minutes later, Ka, all of a sudden, a noise arose from the mountain of star crystals. There seemed to be living creatures inside. However, until now, Yang Tian still hadn't sensed any life aura from the pile of star crystals. Another 3 minutes passed. Purring! Suddenly, there was a loud explosion. The star crystals that had been piled up like a small mountain suddenly exploded, as if there were explosives hidden inside. A large number of stellar crystals rose into the sky like blue water splashes. They scattered in the sky and then fell down like raindrops under the gravitational force of the planet. Almost at the same time, a black gas rushed out from inside and formed a blurry black dragon. After circling in the air, it suddenly turned around and rushed toward Yang Tian and Soli. When the black gas appeared, it was no longer able to conceal its aura. Even Zhuliang City was able to sense the destructive and deathly energy fluctuations coming from the black gas. Seeing this black gas rushing toward them, Yang Tian laughed. That was because the black gas was the same as the energy hidden in the stellar crystal. Yang Tian had already guessed the answer to some of the previous questions. Fortunately, he directly slashed this palace made of star crystals and didn't enter it. If he entered, he would be fine, but Soli would be in danger. Because this tempting palace was actually a cage. Not only that, Yang Tian also guessed that the Dark Astral King's consciousness didn't disappear with the death of his physical body. He had already thought of a way to preserve it in another form. As for the scheme against the intruders, it didn't require much intelligence. With a smart program as an auxiliary tool, it wouldn't be a problem. Compared to the checkpoints in the Death Starfield, the design of the Dark Astral King's mechanism was too crude. Looking at the black gas that looked like a black dragon rushing toward them, Yang Tian didn't move, but the little blue dragon moved first. It shot out from Yang Tian's shoulder. During this process, it grew at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, it became a giant dragon and opened its mouth toward the black gas. The little blue dragon didn't spit it out, but inhaled. A powerful suction force immediately covered the dragon-shaped black gas. On Earth, in the myths about dragons, a giant dragon could suck up seawater. The little blue dragon didn't have such a powerful ability now, but it could easily suck up this black gas. In just an instant, a large mass of black gas entered the little blue dragon's mouth. Roar! After absorbing the black gas, the little blue dragon let out a carefree cry. It circled in the air a few times before turning back into a mini dragon and landing on Yang Tian's shoulder. The energy that suddenly appeared and was dangerous to Soli was easily resolved by the little blue dragon. Squeak, squeak, squeak! The little blue dragon that landed on Yang Tian's shoulder let out a series of cries. To ordinary people, the little blue dragon's cries sounded like the cries of mice. In fact, if one paid attention, they would find that these cries were much clearer and louder than mice's cries, and they were also very rhythmic. The little blue dragon told Yang Tian some information about this black energy. When Yang Tian heard this, an expression of realization appeared on his face. "What is it saying?" Soli asked curiously when she saw the expression on Yang Tian's face. Yang Tian said with a smile, "Xiao Long told me that the Dark Star King's energy is related to the Black Dragon." Soli nodded in confusion. Only Yang Tian understood because he had the power of the dragon orb from the little blue dragon. The Dark Star King, who had the Black Dragon, also had a similar power. For Yang Tian, it was not strange that the Dark Star King, who had the Black Dragon, also had a similar power. Clearly, the Dark Star King's calculations had all failed. It was very difficult for a person who had lost their physical body and only had some consciousness left to revive. If there was even the slightest mistake, it would all be in vain. Next, it was time for a great harvest. The energy on these star crystals actually disappeared. Soli casually picked up a piece of star crystal, inspected it, and said in pleasant surprise. This was already within Yang Tian's expectations. The vague black dragon, that the little blue dragon devoured, was most likely formed from the energy contained in the star crystals. Next, it was time to use the storage bracelet to collect these star crystals. Zhu Liangshi looked at the mountain of star crystals in front of him, and was both excited and helpless because he knew that these belonged to Yang Tian and Soli. Yang Tian not killing him was already merciful, so how could he give him more star crystals? After Yang Tian collected a 500-kilogram star crystal, he suddenly turned around and shouted, "Zhu Liangshi!" Zhu Liangshi was absent-minded and didn't expect Yang Tian to call him. He stared blankly for a moment before reacting. Yang Tian said with a smile, "Didn't some star crystals fall down the mountain? They are all yours." Zhu Liangshi opened his eyes wide and cried out in surprise again. Chapter 3:18. Yang Tian and Soli collected the star crystals very quickly. In about 20 minutes, they collected all the star crystals at the top of the mountain and put them into the storage space. The harvest this time was dozens of times more than what Yang Tian collected in the Star Mine Master's small world. Just as Genesis Star had said before, this harvest would allow Yang Tian and Soli to not worry about cultivation resources for a long time. After collecting the star crystals, Yang Tian and Soli inspected the mountain peak. They unexpectedly found that there was an underground palace at the bottom of the palace made of star crystals. After entering, what appeared before their eyes were countless skeletons that were densely distributed throughout the underground palace. There were almost several thousand of them in total. Most of these bones were the bones of decayed human corpses, and a small number were the bones of beasts. Many of the human bones were still intact, and their bodies were still covered in black armor. They looked like the soldiers of the dark astral monarch when he was alive. The bones of the beasts were most likely the beast pets and mounts of the dark astral monarch's subordinate. There were no scars on these bones. They were most likely killed without putting up any resistance. Obviously, this was a kind of sacrifice. In a stone room at the bottom of the underground palace, Yang Tian and Soli finally found the corpse of the dark astral monarch. This corpse had not yet decayed and looked like a dried corpse. He was wearing a gorgeous robe and was sitting on a chair carved from blue stone. Even though it was already dead, the corpse of the dark astral monarch still looked domineering. Soli hated the dark astral monarch's brutal behavior. After confirming that this was the corpse of the dark astral monarch, she smashed the corpse with a soft whip. Next, the two of them carefully searched the entire underground palace, but did not find anything good. Yang Tian and Soli returned to the surface with disappointment. It was time to leave. Yang Tian had killed Genesis Star without any hesitation. The Taichu family would probably take action soon, so it was better to leave this place as soon as possible. Juliang City at the bottom of the mountain also had a good harvest. Yang Tian's slash was too powerful. At least 1/10 of the star crystals fell to the bottom of the mountain. This guy was happily collecting star crystals when he heard Yang Tian call his name from the top of the mountain. Juliang City sighed helplessly and could only return to the top of the mountain. At this time, more than half an hour had passed since Yang Tian killed Genesis Star. Juliang City looked at the rotten corpse of Genesis Star and said, under normal circumstances, the sensor on his body would send a death message in about 10 minutes. But I can let him live for a while longer. As he spoke, he took out a syringe like a syringe from his storage bracelet and injected the blue liquid inside into Genesis Star's corpse. That's good. After throwing away the syringe in his hand, Zhu Liangshi laughed. Yang Tian did not need to guess to know that the medicine that Juliang City injected into Absolute Beginning Star's corpse could maintain the activity of the body's cells. This guy, he really knows a lot. Yang Tian looked at Juliang City curiously and thought. Seeing Yang Tian sizing him up, Juliang City smiled and said, I can't cultivate in the academy because I spend most of my time on fun things. Apart from medicine, I also know armor design, artificial intelligence. Let's leave quickly. Soli was a famous battle maniac in the academy. She naturally didn't like people like Juliang City who didn't care about cultivation. She frowned and interrupted Juliang City. Yang Tian nodded. The little blue dragon transformed into a giant dragon again and carried the three back the way they came. Rumble. The 3 people and 1 dragon had just reached the entrance of the cave when the ground started shaking. Clearly, the devouring bugs in the cave below had become bigger. If they wanted to return to the academy as soon as possible, they could only go back the way they came. Yang Tian and Soli looked at each other and rushed into the cave one after the other. The little blue dragon transformed back into a mini dragon and landed on Yang Tian's shoulder. Juliang City saw Yang Tian and Soli's figures disappear into the cave. He looked back, shrunk his neck, and immediately followed. Boom, boom, boom. Whereas they moved quickly along the cave, violent crashing sounds kept coming from the front. Hearing this, Yang Tian and Soli both sped up. Wait for me. Juliang City's voice kept coming from behind Yang Tian and Soli. It sounded like they were lagging behind by a long distance. Xiaolong, go and help him. They were in a hurry right now. Yang Tian turned around and said to the little blue dragon while moving quickly. Squeak, squeak. The little blue dragon cried out twice and turned into a green shadow, going to find Juliang City. The cave was winding. After a few minutes, Yang Tian and Soli finally appeared in the cave filled with devouring bugs. What appeared in front of them was no longer countless devouring bugs, but a part of the devouring bug's body. A huge devouring bug had already occupied most of the space in the cave. There was more than one devouring bug like this. Their bodies were bound by the cave and they were crashing into the cave. Every time they crashed, the entire cave would tremble. Yang Tian and Soli only stopped for a moment when Juliang City's screams suddenly came from behind them. The two couldn't help but look back. They saw Juliang City covering his butt and running away in panic. Flames lit up behind him from time to time. Yang Tian didn't need to guess to know that the little blue dragon was spitting fire behind Juliang City and burning his butt. Juliang City, who didn't want to be burned, could only run faster. A person's potential was limitless. Sometimes they had to be forced. Seeing this, Yang Tian couldn't help but laugh. After turning around, Yang Tian gritted his teeth and said, "Let's go." Then, he rushed out of the cave. While the devouring bugs had grown very big, the space in the cave was irregular. There would always be gaps for them to pass through. If they really couldn't pass through, they would use the sword in their hands to open a path. In the cave, other than the violent crashing sounds, there was also the sound of cutting from time to time. As they moved forward, Yang Tian would cut off a part of the devouring bug's body when he encountered a place that he couldn't pass through. Sometimes, he could only pass through the devouring bug's body. During this process, Yang Tian also saw how powerful the devouring bugs were. The bigger they grew, the stronger their vitality would be. The body that was cut open by Yang Tian could be restored to its original state in a few minutes. Boom! When Yang Tian and the others had finally passed through the devouring bug's cave and were moving forward through the winding stone steps, there was a loud explosion behind them. The devouring bug's cave had finally been destroyed. Yang Tian could imagine that those gigantic bugs would eventually climb to the surface of the planet and begin to devour everything that they could. Their bodies would grow bigger and bigger. Chapter 319. Inside a stone house in Blackstone Town on Ancient Fallen Star. 8 black-armored guards from the Absolute Beginning Star were standing guard here. The Taichu clan was very strict with the management of these guards. The 8 of them didn't know when Taichu Star would come out. Ever since Taichu Star brought people away from this formation disk, they had been guarding this place, not daring to leave casually. The 8 people didn't wear helmets. 5 of them were middle-aged, while the other 3 were young. At this time, they hadn't received the news that Genesis Star had died. Suddenly, the disk array placed in the middle of the room lit up. When the formation disk lit up, it meant that they were in the teleportation formation. The 8 black-armored guards immediately put on their helmets and waited for Genesis Star to appear. Under the 8 people's gazes, a slightly plump figure suddenly appeared in the blue light. It was a student that Genesis Star had brought with him. Juliang City, these 8 people knew each other. After the teleportation, Juliang City walked out of the formation disk. He glanced around and found that he was still in Blackstone Town. He couldn't help but sigh in relief. The formation disk could be moved. If Genesis Star had taken it away, it would be troublesome. It was worth mentioning that although space could overlap, if the teleportation formation disk was placed in the storage space, it couldn't be activated. The first to appear was Juliang City. This surprised the 8 black-armored guards, but they didn't do anything to Juliang City. Cough cough. Juliang City glanced at the 8 guards and coughed twice to ease his nervousness. Then he smiled and said to the 8, "It's not suitable for you to see what Genesis Star is bringing back. Please turn around." As soon as Juliang City finished speaking, the 8 black-armored guards looked at each other. Although they were confused, they still turned around according to Juliang City's request. When they turned around, Yang Tian and Soli appeared on the formation disk. The 2 glanced at the 8 black-armored guards with their backs facing them and couldn't help but smile. Yang Tian even gave Juliang City a thumbs up. The reason why he had Juliang City teleport first was to prevent any accident. Yang Tian still trusted Juliang City. Seeing that Yang Tian and Soli had finally teleported over safely, Zhu Liang let out a sigh of relief and said, "Now, you can turn around." Zhu Liang City's voice was still echoing in the room when the 8 of them turned around. Seeing Yang Tian and Soli, the people they had followed, the 8 of them immediately realized that something must have happened to Absolute Beginning Star. "I don't want to fight with you. You should obediently wait here for your master. He should be back in about an hour." After saying that, Yang Tian walked outside with Soli and Zhu Liangshi. What happened? Questions appeared in the hearts of the 8 people. They were very puzzled by this strange situation. But soon, someone reacted. Before Yang Tian and the other 2 walked out of the door, a black armored guard shouted, "All of you, stop!" Yang Tian, Soli, and Zhu Liang had no choice but to stop. Sighs, Zhu Liang City sighed helplessly. He turned around and looked at the 8 black armored guards. "Why can't you let us leave quietly? Aren't you courting death?" Zhu Liang City could already predict what would happen next. A few seconds later, the house made of black stone emitted a few bangs, and then it became quiet again. Soon, Yang Tian, Soli, and Zhu Liang City walked out of the stone house. The 8 black armored guards had been killed by Yang Tian. In fact, Yang Tian didn't want to do this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have lied to them and said that Absolute Beginning Star would be back in about an hour. Just as Zhu Liang City said, these people were courting death. So be it. Yang Tian didn't feel guilty at all. These 8 guards were good people. Yang Tian didn't believe that. As for the disc array, Yang Tian didn't waste it. He had already put it in his storage bracelet. This was because Soli told him that if he collected some disc arrays in the process of training, they could be used as life-saving tools in the future or when he encountered a strong enemy. Moreover, this disc array was extremely valuable. 1 disc array was equivalent to the value of 10 black dragon ships of Yang Tian. The 3 of them immediately left Blackstone Town and returned to the place where they came from through the small path. On the hillside, the guard in the gazebo had changed. It was also a fierce-looking big man. However, when he saw that it was Yang Tian and the others, he didn't say a word and let Yang Tian and the others leave. Because not long ago, the big man in the gazebo was killed by Gua. With such a harsh environment, naturally, not many strong people would come here. Only some weak people who were wanted and couldn't survive in the outside world would hide on this planet and live a muddled life. Because Yang Tian and the others left in time, they kept changing their route along the way and all used teleportation to return. On the way back to the Superstar Academy, no one intercepted them. When they entered the gate of the Superstar Academy, Yang Tian, Soli, and Zhu Liang City all breathed a sigh of relief. In the endless universe, there was a huge silver-white ball floating. This man-made ball was twice as big as the moon. This was a mobile fortress made by some big families in the universe. If a big family placed a big business on a planet that couldn't be moved casually, it was inevitable that it would be attacked by others. It was also very easy for the enemy to destroy it. They just had to blow up the entire planet. Building such a mobile fortress avoided this problem. It could move at any time. In the universe, it could go wherever it wanted and wouldn't be locked by the enemy. A big family could exist for a long time in the universe precisely because they built such a mobile fortress. This huge silver-white ball was the mobile fortress of the Taichu family. Living in this mobile fortress was exactly the same as living on a planet with a beautiful environment. The huge silver-white shell blocked the radiation in the universe. On the inner side, there was a huge display screen that simulated the blue sky and white clouds on the planet. Thousands of meters away from the shell was a huge sphere. On the sphere was land and sea. Small cities were built on the land and islands in the sea. Such a mobile fortress was not so much a fortress as an artificial planet. The designer who designed this kind of living space integrated all human expectations for the environment into such a mobile fortress. Inside, the temperature was always maintained at a comfortable temperature for the human body. In some places, the temperature could be increased to create a sunny beach. The natural disasters that could happen on any planet did not exist here. The people of the Taichu family lived in such a mobile fortress. Except for the people of the Taichu family, no one else knew that such a planet was actually a man-made fortress. The patriarch of the Taichu family lived like an emperor in such a man-made fortress. Within the mobile fortress, in a luxurious palace on an island in the sea, the current patriarch of the Taichu family, Taichu Bohong, was taking a leisurely stroll in the back garden. Next to him were several beautiful young women. Taichu Bohong had lived for more than 1,000 years and had always been in control of the Taichu family. His current cultivation realm was a super area lord, a famous elite in the universe. Whoosh, just as he was happily flirting with the beautiful women. Suddenly, a silver-white ball flew over and stopped in front of Taichu Bohong. Seeing this ping-pong-sized flying object, Taichu Bohong frowned because he knew that something bad had happened. The smile on Taichu Bohong's face disappeared. He waved his hand and the young women knew that Taichu Bohong had something important to do, so they left the garden. Chapter 320. Speak. What's the matter? After the few beautiful young ladies left, Bohong Taichu said indifferently. A clear female voice came from the silver-white metal ball. Master, there's bad news. Absolute Beginning Star has been killed by someone called Yang Tian. Yang Tian is a new student of the Superstar Academy. This is what happened. The metal ball spoke at an extremely fast speed, narrating what happened. During this process, Bohong Taichu only frowned slightly. Even though Absolute Beginning Star was one of Bohong Taichu's sons, he had many children. Their relationship wasn't like a normal father and son relationship, it was very close. Plus, after 1,000 years of cultivation, and being in charge of the Taichu family, Bohong Taichu had long treated relationships lightly. Advanced technology, along with cultivation, could extend a human's lifespan by several times. Dozens of times warriors who had lived for a long time were usually unwilling to raise their descendants. Because of the long years, the number of descendants would increase. In the end, a family's population would continue to increase without limit. This wasn't good for a family's development. With more people, the family's resources would be spread out. Plus, the more people there were, the more power struggles there would be, and it would be hard to manage. Hence, one could only control the family's population within a certain range. Many ancient families in the universe, every member had a limit to their reproduction. The Taichu family was the same. Every 5 years or so, Taichu Bohong would give birth to a child with his woman. 1,000 years had passed, and he had over 200 children. As for the Absolute Beginning Star, she was one of the youngest children. Bohong Taichu went silent for a while. Logically speaking, Absolute Beginning Star's death wasn't unjust. He accepted the training program and was afraid of danger. But when others accepted it, he became jealous and followed behind them, even sending the family's experts to kill them. However, Absolute Beginning Star was after all a direct descendant of the Taichu family. No matter what, the Taichu family couldn't lose face. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, the people of the Taichu clan would be mocked and bullied by others outside. Even though they didn't have such a strong father and son relationship, he was still a biological son, a life passed down from him. Tell Absolute Beginning Stone Star to make a trip. If he doesn't kill Yang Tian, don't let him return. After a while, Bohong Taichu finally opened his mouth and said indifferently, "Yes, master." After the metal ball finished speaking, it flew away with a swoosh. In the ocean of this artificial planet there were many small islands. At this moment, on a small island, a muscular man with short hair was sitting on the beach of the island. Beside him, there was a black triangular short sword stabbed into the ground. This person was the primordial stone star, a star-level domain lord elite. Unlike the other disciples, primordial stone star was extremely focused on cultivation. While the other disciples were having fun, he was cultivating. When the disciples of other clans went out, they would be accompanied by a group of guards who were hired at a high price. However, he had always gone out alone to gain experience. Although his cultivation talent was not the most outstanding in the Taichu clan, his combat ability was the strongest among the younger generation. Primordial Stone Star had its eyes closed as it sensed the cells in its body. Cultivation was, in fact, evolution, continuous evolution. It would become a new life form that was more and more suitable for the environment, and its survival ability and means would continue to grow stronger. Therefore, no matter what kind of power one cultivated, in reality, it was a kind of microscopic cultivation. It was just like how Yang Tian controlled the cells in his body. Swoosh! Primordial Stone Star was immersed in sensing the cells in his body when suddenly, there was the sound of wind. A silver ball the size of a ping-pong ball appeared and hovered in front of him. This intelligent auxiliary device was controlled by an AI program. It knew that Primordial Stone Star was cultivating, so it did not make a sound. It only hovered quietly and waited. Primordial Stone Star also heard the sound of the auxiliary device, but he did not immediately end his sensing. He continued with his eyes closed. About half an hour later, Primordial Stone Star opened his eyes. "Master, there is a mission." The support device quickly reported the information about Absolute Beginning Star and Yang Tian to him at an extremely fast speed. Primordial Stone Star's face was calm when he heard such a mission. He said lightly, "I can't enter the Superstar Academy. If Yang Tian keeps hiding in the Superstar Academy, how can I kill him?" After Primordial Stone Star finished speaking, the auxiliary device said, "Master, the Patriarch did not set a time limit." Primordial Stone Star nodded, pulled out the black triangular short sword, and stood up. After more than 10 minutes, Primordial Stone Star left the huge fortress of the Primordial family through the teleportation disk. After receiving the news that Primordial Stone Star was on the move, Primordial Stone Star thought about it and issued a bounty for Yang Tian. Once this bounty was issued, if Yang Tian left the Superstar Academy, even if he did not encounter Primordial Stone Star, he would be hunted down after being discovered. This kind of bounty would, of course, not be made public. It would only circulate in secret. The large amount of star crystals as a reward would make many cultivators in the universe jealous. Not long after, when Yang Tian received this news, he finally had the idea of forming a team. At the same time, in the Superstar Academy. When Yang Tian returned to the Superstar Academy and learned from the Academy system that Qin Fei had come to the Academy, he regretted it so much. It had been a few hours, but Yang Tian was still sitting in the living room, looking at Qin Fei's three-dimensional image. "Xiao Long, look, little Fei has become much more beautiful, haha. She's my wife. If the other students knew, they would be envious of me." Hearing this, the little blue dragon, who was lying on the table nibbling on a piece of barbecued meat, could not help but roll its eyes at Yang Tian. In the beginning, the little blue dragon was still excitedly squeaking in response to Yang Tian because it also missed Qin Fei very much. The little blue dragon had a very good impression of Qin Fei because Qin Fei gave it a very warm feeling. However, after Yang Tian said this dozens of times, the little blue dragon could only roll its eyes at Yang Tian. Ding! Suddenly, there was a notification sound. There was a message. Yang Tian could only turn off Qin Fei's three-dimensional image and open the message. It was a notification from the Academy that he had completed the training project. 50,000 credits had been transferred to his account. Seeing this message, Yang Tian smiled happily. He had not been in the Academy for long, and he had already obtained 50,000 credits. For Yang Tian, this was a great sense of accomplishment. Yang Tian was just about to close the message when another notification came. When he opened the message, it turned out that it was a notification for Yang Tian to go for the assessment. After passing the assessment, he could become an advanced student. After becoming an advanced student, he would be able to obtain more information about the academy. After closing the message, Yang Tian glanced at the living room and felt a little emotional. From the time he lived in this building 188, he had not even stayed for 10 days. He had to move out again. Chapter 321. Boom! Yang Tian punched out, and the force of the punch hit the mountain wall, creating a huge crater with a diameter of more than 10 meters and a depth of about 5 meters. The shock wave from the explosion blew the surrounding rocks in all directions. Huff! After punching out, Yang Tian let out a long breath and turned around. The Shenwu professor was sitting on a clean rock behind Yang Tian, holding a silver-white drink bottle in his hand and tasting the delicious drink. Seeing Yang Tian looking at him, the Shenwu professor smiled and said, "Very good, you have passed the test. From today onwards, you are an advanced student of the Superstar Academy. Congratulations!" Yang Tian smiled and nodded. In fact, Yang Tian was not in a hurry to take the test, but the Shenwu professor took the initiative to come to him. Naturally, it was Soli who told the professor that Yang Tian had reached the star state. Soli was not telling on him, so Yang Tian naturally did not care about this small matter. Soon, Yang Tian set his eyes on the silver-white drink bottle in the Shenwu professor's hand. Previously, when he saw the Shenwu professor tasting the drink, Yang Tian thought that the old man was drinking. Later, he found out that alcohol was also a unique invention of Earth. Outside of Earth, there was no such drink as alcohol. Seeing Yang Tian staring at the drink in his hand, the Shenwu professor smiled and waved for Yang Tian to come over. Yang Tian nodded and sat on a rock next to the Shenwu professor. Huff! As soon as Yang Tian sat down, there was the sound of wind. Then, a green shadow appeared in front of Yang Tian and landed on his shoulder. The little blue dragon that was playing nearby finally had enough and flew back. Looking at the little blue dragon on Yang Tian's shoulder, the Shenwu professor said with a smile, "Your star beast is not bad." Yang Tian remembered that this was the second time Professor Shenwu had said something like this. At this time, Yang Tian was moved and asked, "Professor, may I ask if you know where the dragon starfield is?" After hearing Yang Tian's question, the little blue dragon's eyes widened. Just like Yang Tian, he looked at Professor Shenwu with an expectant gaze. Dragon Starfield. The professor frowned as he muttered to himself. A look of reminiscence appeared on his face. Yang Tian and the little blue dragon saw the expression on the professor's face and couldn't help but worry. Even if he had to recall it, he probably wouldn't have much of an impression of it. Moments later, the professor said, "That's an extremely distant star field. There's no teleportation formation that leads there. If you take a spaceship, you'll have to fly for several years. I'm not sure where it is." So far, Yang Tian and the little blue dragon widened their eyes in surprise. It was far from a problem. It would just take a bit more time, but they didn't know where it was. The universe was so big, where would they find it? Seeing the disappointment in Yang Tian and the little blue dragon's eyes, the professor smiled. "Although I don't know, I know who knows?" "Who?" Yang Tian asked. "Superstar God Temple, High Priest Kaya." The professor said. "Kaya?" Yang Tian said with a frown. "That's right." The professor said, "Kaya is the oldest high priest of Superstar God Temple. What we know, he knows. What we don't know, he knows. It's said that there's no problem that can stump him. So powerful." Yang Tian was very surprised. If Kaya was the #1 expert in the universe, Yang Tian wouldn't find it strange. But no problem could stump him. This sounded like bragging. One had to know that in this universe there were too many things that humans didn't know. If a person knew everything, then they wouldn't be called a person, but a god. Seeing Yang Tian's eyes, the professor smiled. Kaya doesn't know everything, but he can answer questions we don't know. Because in the universe, there are many things we haven't seen or heard of. Since that's the case, we won't ask questions about these unknown things. Simply put, the professor's words were like Kaya knew more than others. After speaking, the professor pointed at the little blue dragon and said, "In the universe, many people know that this beast is a star beast. There are many people in the universe who have star beasts like you. However, no one knows where this star beast comes from. Even they themselves aren't very clear about it." After the professor finished speaking, the little blue dragon let out a few low cries. The professor was right. After the dragon awakened its inherited memories, it only knew that its home was a beautiful star field or some other things. However, it didn't know its exact location in the universe. "Don't worry, Xiaolong, I'll definitely help you find your home." Yang Tian comforted the little blue dragon again. After comforting the little blue dragon, Yang Tian asked, "How can I see Kaya?" The professor said, "Kaya will only answer questions from subordinates of the Superstar God Temple. If you want to see him, then work hard to become a divine general. When you become an advanced student and enter the school system, you'll receive a prompt. At the end of the year, the Superstar God Temple will choose 5 students to become Superstar God Temple's divine generals. The one with the strongest combat power would become the chief divine general. If you can become a divine general, not only can you ask Kaya questions, you can also meet the goddess. Work hard. When you're strong to a certain extent, no problems will be a problem." Hearing this, Yang Tian narrowed his eyes and nodded. Seeing Yang Tian's determined expression, the professor smiled. "This old man has answered your question. Now, it's time for you to answer this old man's question. Why do you keep looking at the bottle in this old man's hand?" "This." Yang Tian scratched his head and said, "Looking at the way you're drinking, it reminds me of a drink in my hometown." Yang Tian explained to Professor Shen Wu about the drink called wine in detail. "If you drink too much, you'll get muddle-headed. The taste isn't very good and it's also harmful to the body. This drink." The professor rubbed his chin and muttered for a while before finally saying, "Make some for this old man to try." Yang Tian heard the professor talk about the drink's shortcomings and thought that the professor didn't like it. He didn't expect him to make some for him to try. "Why?" Yang Tian didn't understand. The professor said, "Because it has many shortcomings, but so many people drink it. It must be something good." Yang Tian. After parting with the professor, Yang Tian returned to the intermediate student area. He didn't expect Soli to be sitting at his door, as if she had been waiting for a long time. Seeing Yang Tian return, Soli stood up and smiled at Yang Tian. "Congratulations! You've become an advanced student." After Soli said this, Yang Tian smiled. "You didn't wait for me here to say this, right?" And Soli nodded very straightforwardly. "What I want to tell you is that the Taichu family has issued a bounty for you. If there's nothing else, you'd better stay in the academy. Also, I'll become an advanced student soon." After saying this, Soli turned around and left. "What a strong woman," Yang Tian thought as he looked at Soli's back. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.